The man, in irritation, raises his voice and demands that the young lady leave the house immediately, assuring her that she is no longer his daughter and has no right to remain under his roof. The girl, offended and confused, with tears in her eyes, tries to understand how her own father is capable of doing this, and asks him about it. The main character, watching the entire scene from her bed, only confirms her own suspicions that the young lady was indeed about to be kicked out. Adelgida, Countess of Seaton, had long been making Sabrina's life miserable by spreading false rumors, and was the evil girl who endlessly caused trouble for those around her. If you think about it, the parents of the main character and her fiancé seemed like the complete opposite of the strict and harsh family of the villain, which made the situation even more contrasting. Now the young lady assures herself that despite their attempts to make things look different, the lady with blue hair, in their opinion, got what she deserved. The Count, fearing that punishment for Adele's pranks could affect the entire family, simply kicked her out at night, and in the end, it all ended with the villainess dying of hunger on the street. The main character yawns lazily, confident that she has plenty of time, and decides to continue reading only after she has had a good night's sleep. She understands that tomorrow is the only opportunity to get at least a little rest from endless worries, so she wants to use it fully. She's overcome with the desire for the peaceful moment to continue, but now she's forced to think about what's going on and why things turned out differently. The man appears before her again, angrily demanding that the girl leave the house, because now she is no one to him and has no relation to his family. The young lady is stunned to realize that a stranger is yelling at her, claiming that Adele is a disgrace to the family and does not deserve forgiveness. The main character is perplexed, trying to understand who he is talking about and whether he really addresses her as Adele, until she notices the color of his hair. In a stupor, she finally realizes that she has indeed ended up in the body of that very villain, and the man meanwhile addresses the servants with orders. He demands that the girl be thrown out immediately, and the heroine realizes that now she is threatened not only by the hero's revenge, but also by the fact that she is being thrown out of the house. The young lady cries out in despair, realizing that such situations usually mean the beginning of a difficult path from which there is no easy way out. She believes that in such circumstances they usually give you the opportunity to fix something, and so she asks indignantly how they can act so cruelly. In the past, the young lady was the owner and head chef of a Korean cuisine restaurant, and her choice fell on such dishes due to her sincere love for this style. She considered this field ideal because she was an excellent cook and believed that she could achieve a lot, thanks to her own skills and perseverance. She was delighted that she could have her own restaurant and constantly hone her skills, creating new dishes and delighting her customers. Every day she was asked if she was sure of the path she had chosen, and this continued until fate threw her into someone else's body and onto a cold street. The girl understands that since she was kicked out, she will have to adapt to new circumstances and somehow earn money in order to survive. Fortunately, this world turned out to be not too different from her home one, and, having found herself a villain, she chose a suitable way to earn money. She began cooking and serving small queues, branching out into street food, which allowed her to at least stay afloat. After some time, a boy runs up to her and happily tells her that he did everything, after which the girl decides to reward him. She tells him that the people brought will bring him another reward, and the young man, realizing this, readily runs off to carry out the assignment. The girl is happy that she has at least some kind of start, and announces that she is selling inexpensive sweets to attract more customers. These treats cost only 50 coins, and if the buyer manages to cut out the figure, he receives 2 candies as a gift. One of the children says that he wants more, and the other joins his request, and the girl is glad that there is already soda and flour in this world. Now, thanks to her small business, she somehow pays for housing and stays on her feet, despite all the difficulties. She believes that if she works harder and saves little by little, she can open her own small restaurant. Suddenly, a ladle falls out of the cart, and the girl, picking it up, understands that she will not let her business fall apart because of such a trifle. The young lady realizes that today has brought in a good profit, and if this continues, she will be able to start saving for the future. At first, it was extremely unusual for her, but gradually she was able to adapt, and now she even feels confident in her work. She takes her ring, thinking of selling it to keep the business going for another month, since personal belongings have become less valuable to her. But suddenly she doubts whether she has forgotten something, and turning around, she notices several knights in front of her, which causes her new concern. One of the men insists that the gentleman ordered the girl to be taken away. Adelgid asks what they're talking about, and the men introduce themselves as simple street vendors. However, one of them firmly declares that if the girl obeys, nothing will happen to her, after which he takes out his sword, showing the seriousness of his intentions. Adelgid confirms that she understands and asks to be allowed to take her things, as she needs them to continue trading on the street. The girl gets into the carriage and wonders who these people are and whether it is possible that they know her personally or have heard something about her. At the same time, the young lady understands that she was thrown out of the count's house, the engagement was broken off, and she does not understand why these strangers needed her. She admits that perhaps they know nothing about her, but she still cannot comprehend the true reason for their actions. The girl decides that she will not understand until she meets the gentleman himself, and can only hope that her expectations will not bring problems. Sometime later, Adelgida finds herself in the man's mansion and wonders if he was trying to find her as she makes her way to the main hall. The girl is struck by how gloomy and strange the estate looks and thinks that something unusual is happening here while the man is talking to the countess. Adelgida asks if he knows her and has looked into her past, trying to figure out how much the man knows about her life. The man replies that it wasn't difficult at all to find out about her. Adele realizes there's no point in hiding anything, since her name is directly linked to her former one. The girl asks what exactly he wants from her, and decides in advance that she will not give the count a single cent. The young man just smirks and asks if she's really thinking about money, as if that's not the whole point of their meeting. He adds whether the lady thinks he needs her for profit, and Adelgid tries to understand if it is really about money. She wonders why he even noticed her, and this makes her slightly surprised, because the reason is not clear. Suddenly, the girl notices that the man has stepped out of the shadows, and now his face is fully visible. His features are graceful, his dark hair, his golden eyes sparkle. At that moment, Adelgid realizes that in front of her is Kylo Auburn, the second prince of the empire and the main villain of legend. The girl feels herself overcome with fear, and the man, noticing this, asks if he really seems scary to her. Adelgid is embarrassed and replies that no, she just didn't expect to meet Prince Kylo in person under such circumstances. The man asks if she knows him personally, although it seems they have never crossed paths before. The girl explains that she has heard of his beauty and reputation, and believes that it is impossible not to know such a famous person, especially a villain of history. At first, she thought he was just a handsome guy without a role, but fans revealed his true nature, and she found out about it in advance. The young man simply notes that it's good that now there's no point in wasting time on explanations and unnecessary words. Adelgid reflects that it is strange to see him so open, since in the story he is described as cold and withdrawn, but his smile is somehow warming. Kylo suggests getting down to business and states that he wants to hire the girl as his personal chef, to which Adelgid agrees. Realizing what happened, she is shocked, thinking that the prince really wants to see her as his personal chef. The girl wonders if this is a joke and realizes that the proposal is serious, after which she addresses him as His Highness. She explains that she is a simple street vendor selling sweets and is perplexed as to why she would need such a post in his house. Adelgid wonders why because the only thing she can cook well is dalgona, and the rest is unknown to her. Kylo asks if the dish is really called dalgona, and it turns out that it is already known in this world, which surprises the girl. The girl wondered why she was so hung up on trifles and decided that she had come up with a name that made this sweet the most unusual and attractive in the world. At that moment, the guy was watching with interest, and she felt that she could have made a mistake out of nervousness, since this was the first time she had encountered an important and influential person. But even though she was overcome with worry, the young lady was glad that Kylo did not show hostility, and the main character of the story remained the mysterious crown prince. He had a younger brother, a minor character in importance, named Kylo Auburn, who was second in the empire's hierarchy but remained an influential man. The series of misfortunes began immediately after the emperor died, plunging into eternal sleep due to an incurable disease, leaving the country in turmoil. The prince showed kindness only to the women he loved, but remained a cruel tyrant toward everyone else. Upon ascending the throne, he betrayed his younger brother, banishing him from the empire. However, he showed restraint and did not take his brother's life, and those around him decided that the second prince had simply disappeared without a trace, leaving no trace of his presence. Returning to the empire, Kylo became gloomy and began to commit atrocities, turning everything around into a field for intrigue and treacherous actions, striking with his cold-bloodedness. First, he put the main character's assistant into eternal sleep, and then began to observe all events, carefully monitoring every step of those who were nearby. The main characters found themselves in a difficult situation. The young swordmaster was cruel, and the most sensible solution seemed to be to simply run away, hiding from danger. The guy asked if the girl had come up with everything herself, to which she answered affirmatively, trying to remain calm and confident. After some time, they found themselves in a spacious kitchen, where the girl felt that she had not seen such a huge and comfortable space for cooking for a long time. She felt as if she had entered a real imperial kitchen, and felt that this place was significantly larger than any kitchen in the hotel where she had previously worked. At that moment, the young lady noticed that the prince was watching her closely, and she felt a little uneasy under his intense gaze. She explained to His Highness that the dalgona recipe was a secret, and cooking under supervision became extremely inconvenient, interfering with concentration on work. The guy was surprised and asked if it was really a secret, to which the girl replied in the affirmative, adding that revealing the recipe could ruin her business idea and even put her life at risk. She claimed that if anyone found out the recipe, it would ruin her plans and dreams, so the secret had to be kept at all costs, like a valuable treasure. The girl stated that if he wanted to know the recipe, he would have to pay, emphasizing the importance of maintaining control over his creation. The guy calmly stated that he wasn't interested in the recipe itself, and even if he knew anything about cooking, the secret of dalgona wouldn't matter to him, since he was here to test it. The young lady was shocked and wondered if he really thought she was capable of poisoning the food, and she tried to understand the motive for his suspicions. The guy explained that it wasn't a matter of mistrust towards her. Specifically, he didn't trust anyone in general, but if she wanted, he was willing to pay for the prescription, demonstrating a compromise. After that, he clarified the amount she wanted, and the girl realized that she couldn't seem too greedy because any wrong move could cost her dearly. She realized that she had already made enough mistakes, and now she needed to act carefully so as not to put herself in a dangerous position. Still, for the sake of the honor of the royal family, she could ask to cover living expenses for a whole year, after which the girl estimated that this would come to about $1 million. The guy immediately offered to give her 10 times the amount, and the main character could not help but smile, amazed by his generosity and attention. With shining eyes, she informed him that she agreed and asked how many servings he needed to make, to which he replied that a couple of pieces would be enough to test. The young lady agreed and promised that these would be the best dalgonas he had ever tasted, putting all his effort and skill into each serving. To prepare it, a ladle, wooden sticks, sugar, and baking soda were required to follow all the recipe subtleties and achieve the perfect texture. She also needed a masher and a star-shaped cutter, but the girl realized that if she had known how serious everything was, she would have taken even more utensils for the work. No one could have imagined that she would have to cook dalgona in the imperial kitchen, and this placed additional pressure on the young lady. The guy approached her and asked if she needed any help or additional ingredients, showing attention and interest in the process. The girl was slightly surprised and replied that nothing was required yet, to which he noted that he expected a more complex process than she was demonstrating. The young lady wondered whether she should add nutmeg and cinnamon, realizing that the true taste of dalgona depends on the precise proportions of spices. The guy says it's not much, but the young lady immediately understands that if he had ever tried dalgona, he would understand that it is pure sugar at its best. She thinks that he seems to know nothing at all about this delicacy, and involuntarily wonders where he got the information about such a sweet. She also tries to understand his purpose, but deep down she is happy, because it is on this delicacy that she can earn 10 million. The young lady begins to prepare it, and with each passing minute she realizes that even if the candy cools down a little, its taste will still remain amazing. She then pours the molten mixture onto a stand and carefully cuts it into a neat star shape. When the work is finished, the girl announces that it is ready and hands these sweets to the guy, who takes one in his hands. But he breaks the candy in half, and the young lady wonders in surprise if he really just destroyed her work that she worked so hard on. She remembers how carefully she cut out every corner of the star, while the guy, meanwhile, simply bites into the candy. The young lady realizes that she is holding a dalgona worth 10 million in her hands and watches the young man's reaction with interest. He calmly notes that the treat is not poisoned, and this leaves the girl in a state of shock and bewilderment. She argues that he was essentially monitoring the process and that all the ingredients were used, but the young man repeats that he simply did not suspect her intentions because he has too many enemies. Adele realizes that he tasted her masterpiece and simply confirmed the absence of poison, and wonders if it could really be that simple. The guy adds that she wasn't cooking for him, and the girl thinks that perhaps it wasn't meant for the prince at all. They continue on their way, and the young lady feels that events are unfolding strangely and confusingly, and she does not understand where they are going. Soon they approach a group of guards, and the man orders the passage to be opened. However, one of the guards tells Prince Kylo that this is unacceptable, since His Excellency is currently resting. The heroine, hearing this, thinks that perhaps all this really is for the emperor, and is surprised that the prince even tested the sweetness on grass. One of the knights reports that the master has ordered no one to be disturbed. The prince insists and declares that he will not repeat the order twice, so the guards must open the passage. Then the man in the room orders the young man to be let in, and the guards immediately step back, letting them inside. They enter the room, and the emperor, noticing Kylo, asks what happened and what is the matter. The young man turns to his father, and the main character, observing the emperor, is slightly surprised by his thinness and strange appearance. She wonders if he has already been exhausted by an incurable disease and assesses his condition with alarm. Kylo takes the tray of sweets and carefully hands them to the emperor, as if handing over a precious gift. The man, looking at the delicacies, is surprised and cannot believe that this is possible, and the young lady is at a loss to guess what is really going on. The emperor asks where Kylo got these sweets, and the girl is perplexed how an ordinary candy could cause so much emotion. As the man bites into the candy, he suddenly begins to cough, and the prince immediately turns to his father in alarm, asking what happened. The emperor, with tears in his eyes, says that the taste of these sweets reminds him of how Celine used to prepare them, and this brings back strong memories. The main character becomes confused when she realizes that the conversation was about the Empress, about whom almost nothing was mentioned in the novel. She realizes that the Empress was an extra character who fell into eternal sleep at the very beginning of the story, and wonders why she is suddenly being talked about. The young lady wonders if Selena really was such a skilled cook, since she herself doesn't remember it, and the young man notes that it doesn't require any special ingredients and you can enjoy the delicacy anytime. The emperor expresses his gratitude to Kylo and asks who prepared these sweets, showing genuine curiosity. The young man explains that this was made by his cook, who used to sell such delicacies on the street, and the girl listens with interest. He adds that the recipe was invented independently, and the emperor, amazed, confirms that Celine also spoke about it. The man reminisces about old times and asks the girl's name, and the young lady feels a little nervous. The guy introduces her and clarifies that she is the daughter of a count named Adelgida Seaton, proud of her achievements. The emperor is surprised that this is the daughter of the count himself and asks if she has become the prince's cook, realizing that such talents cannot go unnoticed. After this, he asks if the count knows that she is now his boss. The prince is confused and can't find the words right away, and the young lady realizes that if the situation continues, she will have to meet with the count. The young lady states that she no longer considers herself a daughter of the family, as she has been excluded from the family ties. The emperor falls silent for a moment, and the girl becomes noticeably nervous, after which the man says that it seems the issue is settled. Since she is no longer a member of the family, the last name cannot be used. The young lady calmly asks to be called Adele, realizing that she does not want to return to the name Adelgid. The name Adelgid is associated with a sad fate, and while the emperor leaves the sweet on the plate, she feels a slight anxiety. He tells Adele that he would like to try other dishes. One of the servants, meanwhile, turns anxiously to his master. The servant cries out that this is impossible, because an ordinary person cannot cook like that. The emperor declares to Sir Rudolph that the one who managed to awaken his appetite is worthy of working in the imperial kitchen. The man asks if the girl can do him a favor, and Adele is surprised by this question. However, she understands that she still does not fully understand how everything works, because the emperor is the most important person in the country. Now she has become the prince's cook, which means that the earnings will be decent. Adele also realizes that she hasn't cooked her favorite dishes for a long time and tells His Excellency that she will be happy to start eating. The girl feels like the head chef, responsible for the emperor's meal. She gets the idea of owning her own restaurant. If she does everything right, she can achieve great success. After some time, the prince remarks that Adele looks happy, to which she agrees. He says that he doesn't think there is time for this, and the young lady asks why not. The brunette explains that if high society finds out, they will start to fear her, and perhaps the girl already suspects this. His father ate almost nothing for a month, and now he eats only the food she prepared. The main character clarifies whether it is a sweet and receives confirmation. The problem is bigger than it seems, as it will attract a lot of unwanted attention. The young man asks if she is currently preparing sweets, to which the girl replies that no, of course not. The dalgona dessert is a delicacy, not a full meal, and after a month of fasting, the emperor became weak. Adele understands that the emperor needs light and healthy food now. The prince is silent for a moment. He gives the girl freedom to act, and she agrees, realizing that she has already made a choice. Adele reflects that she hasn't cooked for a long time due to a lack of ingredients, and she needs to be careful because the gentleman hasn't eaten for a long time. The emperor suffers from malnutrition, and the man says he has no appetite at all. During his illness, he subsisted solely on chicken broth. The girl understands how sad it is to feed a person who has not tried anything for a long time. She specializes in Korean cuisine, so she rarely made chicken soup. This will become her secret weapon and strength. Soon, the young lady is already completing the preparation process. The dish was presented to the emperor, and he carefully lifted the lid, slightly surprised by the contents. The man wondered if this was really homemade soup and scooped some onto his spoon, examining it. The emperor noted that the dish looked quite good, and the young lady only smiled softly, watching him. The prince assured that all the ingredients had been carefully checked, after which the man decided to try the soup. The servant hastened to assure him that there was no need to exert himself, and the man was inwardly surprised that the food had caused him such excitement. He became curious about what the girl had prepared this time, and he carefully tried the soup. Soon the man was slightly shocked, amazed at how the young lady had learned the recipe, and asked if there was anything unusual in this creamy soup that gave it flavor. The girl explained that the base was chestnut porridge, and the man was slightly surprised. She added that the dish contained milk and rice, reminiscent of a creamy soup, but with a mild and pleasant flavor. The emperor remarked that the aroma was indeed very pleasant. The young lady said that this porridge helps digestion and calms the body, giving a feeling of lightness. At this time, the prince realized that the girl had previously spoken of dalgona as a dessert, and not as a full-fledged dish. She also believed that the emperor needed light and healthy food at the moment, and prepared the soup based on this. The young lady explained that one serving was enough, but she added crushed nuts to enhance the flavor. The man noted that the taste was unusual, but surprisingly pleasant, and admitted that he had not experienced such emotions from food in a long time. The prince carefully watched the girl's reaction, assessing her skill and diligence. Soon the emperor emptied the plate completely, confirming that the dish was indeed delicious. The servant could barely hold back tears of joy, seeing that the master had eaten everything to the end, and the man thought that he wanted more. He felt a little sorry for having gotten himself into such a state, and the young lady noticed that he seemed to have grown younger right before her eyes, and wanted to continue cooking for him. The man asked if she would like to cook for him, and noted that the count's daughter had shown real courage. The emperor's servant looked sternly at the young lady, and she was a little surprised, thinking that she might have seemed rude. The emperor calmly said that everything was fine and asked Kylo to take care of the girl. He noted that she had probably endured many hardships because of the count, but she had grown kind and considerate. The prince nodded in understanding. The man expressed hope that he would be able to enjoy such delicious dishes in the future. The young lady replied with a slight smile that it was a joy for her and part of her duties. Sometime later, they found themselves in the corridor, and the prince announced that he had to provide Adele with a room. The girl thanked him and mentioned that her things were left at the hostel, to which the guy said that he would send someone for them. The prince noticed that the girl was good at street trading and had skills that earned him respect. Miss Adele Seton was popular in society, proving to be more famous than he had originally expected. And incredibly, she ended up outside when one of the servants came up and quietly asked if His Highness could have a moment. He leaned towards him and whispered something in his ear, after which the brunette asked in surprise if they were talking about Count Seton. The man had reacted faster than he had expected, and now there were certain difficulties between them that needed to be dealt with. A little while later, the young lady was already tying an apron around her waist and carefully braiding her long hair, getting ready for business. She reflected on how refreshing this morning was, then headed to the kitchen, enjoying the silence and her own thoughts. Soon the prince entered the kitchen, carefully watching the girl and trying to figure out what exactly she was cooking at that moment. The soup looked rather simple and didn't promise anything special, and the young lady wondered if he was too curious to know all the details. She gestured with her hand that she would have to pay for this, but the young man simply waved it off, declaring that he was not inclined to throw money around. The young lady immediately asked about Dalgona, and the young man confidently said that it was enough to feed his father for a whole month. The girl realized that their relationship was truly special, and this realization made her think that there was something more between them. The prince asked what she was doing now, and the girl explained that she was adding medicinal herbs to make the dish healthy and safe. The young man was a little surprised and noted that the recipes seemed to include ginger, after which he asked if the young lady added it. She confirmed and clarified whether ginger was unusual and whether it was healthy, demonstrating her concern for his father and the taste of the dish. The prince was surprised to think that it was great that she was so attentive to the health of his father, who at the same time refused any medication. He wondered what would happen if her father simply rejected her dish, but the girl calmly objected, asking why throw away her food. She also noted that if no one wanted to eat, she would handle it herself, and then thought about how delicious it would turn out. The young lady wondered if the prince understood how properly and healthily prepared the dish was, because food can be a real medicine. The girl was sure that the soup she was preparing fully confirmed this idea, combining taste and health care. She decided to thoroughly clean the chicken feet, add a head of garlic, onion, and ginger so that all the ingredients would reveal their aroma. While the broth was cooking, she prepared the main ingredients, cut up the chicken, and carefully monitored the cooking process. The chicken broth has already started to gain flavor, and now the chicken could be stuffed with rice and chestnuts to give the dish body and flavor. After adding the chicken to the broth, she continued cooking, and after some time proudly declared that the dish was completely ready. The soup was served to the emperor, and the young lady noted that the chicken meat was very tender and easily separated with a fork, and the sauce complemented the flavor. She suggested trying the dish with the sauce, confident that all the ingredients were in perfect harmony. The man was amazed, experiencing a strange feeling of euphoria and at the same time a desire to enjoy the prepared soup as soon as possible. He took a spoon, and the girl pointed out that there was rice inside the chicken, which gave the dish a special texture and richness of flavor. She watched in amazement as he ate with a spoon, and the man simply continued eating, completely absorbed in the taste of the broth. The soft aroma of medicinal herbs was barely noticeable, but it helped remove excess veins, making the broth especially tender and aromatic. The man thought about the recipe, tried a piece of meat, and realized that it literally melted in his mouth, leaving a pleasant aftertaste. The emperor noticed that the chicken actually contained additional ingredients that gave the dish an unusual and rich flavor. He opened the chicken and was surprised to see chestnuts and rice. Realizing how well the recipe had been put together and how harmoniously the ingredients combined, he found it hard to believe that there was a way to cook rice that made it both soft and rich. The unusual rice caught his attention, and he became curious about how it would combine with the other ingredients and flavors of the dish. He tasted the rice and silently enjoyed every bite, and after a while he carefully put down his spoon, completely satisfied with the result. Wiping his mouth, he watched her closely, wondering if she considered it chicken soup. The young lady replied that the dish had been slightly modified, but the basics were the same. Still, she couldn't stop wondering if he liked it, and inside she was quietly worried. The emperor claimed that the name was widespread and did not require changes. However, he decided that from now on it would be called royal chicken soup, and both the servant and the prince were amazed at the same time. The heroine could barely contain her surprise, wondering if he'd simply added one adjective. Meanwhile, the servant spoke with conviction about the importance of such a change. He said it was a great honor and that His Excellency should be thanked, after which the young lady politely expressed her gratitude. The man simply waved it off, considering it a trifle, and added that such an exquisite dish simply could not be called ordinary chicken soup. He also drew Adele's attention to the fact that she would now become the main imperial chief, which caused the girl genuine surprise. She tried to hide her smile and, at the same time, thought about what he had just said, not believing her ears. The servant hastened to tell the master that the boss had already been chosen, and how could another person be appointed to such an important position? The emperor objected that there would be a lot of talk, but that did not prevent him from acting at his own discretion. He thought, why not have a banquet, since it would be a suitable occasion for celebration? This creation will be the main course, and he intends to make an official announcement that will emphasize the importance of the event. All the guests who tried the soup would be forced to acknowledge the new chef, while the servant at that moment merely covered his face with his hands, astonished by what was happening. He felt as if the gentleman had stepped on his foot, and with barely restrained tears, he asked if he was sure that his actions were correct. The main character was in shock, trying to understand what caused such a reaction in the servant. Rudolph argued that the young lady could not be completely trusted, and the man, agreeing, offered to discuss the event's budget. At this time, the prince turned to the young lady, thinking that it was time for them to move on. A few minutes later, they were already walking down a long corridor, and the girl gradually realized that the first prince was the main character of the story and had considerable power. She understood that if the emperor went into eternal sleep, the throne would go to the prince and Kylo, which increased the tension in her thoughts. The brunette assured her that there was no need to worry, and the young lady was surprised to notice that he seemed to be reading her thoughts. The man explained that the purpose of the banquet was to demonstrate the emperor's power and divert attention from her involvement in preparing the dish. The girl came to the conclusion that her culinary experiments might be viewed coolly, but this only motivated her to improve her skills. The guy, noticing her nervousness, explained that there was no need to worry, and the young lady decided that he simply did not yet realize her true skill. Nevertheless, she understood that her pride in the dish remained the main incentive, and the guy watched her with slight surprise. The young lady turned resolutely to His Highness, realizing that he would yet see what she was capable of in cooking. In her mind, she could already imagine him begging her to cook something else, and that gave her confidence. A little later, the girl cooked the soup again, realizing that the longer the broth is cooked, the richer and more flavorful the dish becomes. She carefully poured the soup into a bowl, feeling satisfied with the work done, and was ready to taste it. The prince told Adele that he did not mean to ignore her, and the young lady realized that she understood his intentions. However, deep down she knew that he found it difficult to believe in her skills, and she silently waited for his reaction. The guy was silent, and the young lady herself invited him to try the soup to appreciate her work. As he began to taste it, he slowly filled his spoon, and the girl happily realized that the boiled chicken turned out to be especially appetizing. She couldn't stop enjoying every bite, knowing she was preparing one of the most delicious meals. Having finished tasting, the young lady wondered if this could be a misfortune, because the joy of cooking filled her. She thought that the prince had probably already tried all the soup, but looking at his plate, she noticed that he had hardly touched the dish and wondered why. She suggested that it might be the ginger, and again reflected on the fact that the emperor had liked the dish after all. The guy said that the young lady seemed to have already eaten everything and wanted to clarify something, and the girl waited with interest to hear what exactly he was going to say. The young man notes that Count Seaton is behaving very strangely, so he advises Adele to be especially attentive and careful. The main character thinks about his words and remembers what the young man said about a man who holds the position of chef to the emperor. This position is extremely important because now Adele is responsible for preparing the banquet and everyone will be watching her every step. The young lady realizes that the situation looks difficult, but then cautiously asks His Highness about his intentions. She asks if he is worried about her, after which the guy becomes embarrassed and shakes his head. He explains that he simply issued a warning as a token of gratitude for the delicious meal she prepared. But Adele notices that he didn't even touch her dish, to which the young man replies that he was just about to try it. The young lady wonders if he will like the soup while the boy brings the spoon to his mouth, preparing for the first taste. She feels nervous, wondering if the dish will taste good, and watches as he finally takes a sip. Adele quietly hopes he likes it and silently asks him to compliment the soup and perhaps ask for more. But the young man only calmly confirms that the food is indeed delicious, which surprises the girl. She wonders if his soul has left his body, but he confirms again that he truly enjoyed the dish. The girl realizes that he clearly liked it, after which she takes the plate from him, thinking that he is exaggerating. The guy thinks it's too much, and Adele thinks about how demanding he is and how it feels like he was born just yesterday. She begins to suspect that he is testing her and thinks that he will see how she copes in the future. The young man says that it seems she has worked enough, and the girl replies that she was all alone. He reminds her that she had many friends and asks if she was the center of attention. The girl doubts and asks if he really considers these people her friends, since no one has visited her since her expulsion. The brunette quietly acknowledges that yes, that's true, and adds that he's sorry. Adele is shocked and doesn't understand what he's talking about. The boy explains that this is not surprising, but the young lady points out that princes do not usually apologize to chefs. He claims that he is not just a prince, after which Adele notices that he is truly an extraordinary person. The girl also understands that in front of her is a dark and mysterious character. The meaning of his words remains unknown to her. The young man says that perhaps Adele will not understand everything right away, and gradually approaches her. He admits that he understands what it means to be alone, and adds that his father. But then he pauses and remarks that he has said too much, so he advises to just forget it. Adele guesses that this guy was alone in the imperial palace and could not trust anyone. At least he has family, but the girl only saw fragments and therefore did not fully understand the situation. She tries to understand why Kylo became a villain, and gradually comes to her own conclusion. A little later, someone instructs a young lady to return books within 5 days, and she agrees to this condition. Moving on, Adele notices that Kylo's reaction left a strong impression on her. She also understands that samgyetang is the main dish, so it cannot be done without it. And for dessert, she needs to prepare something that is universally loved. And she would have liked to speak with the second chief, but the prince insisted that she had no idea what Count Seaton might be up to, so it was better to act carefully if she did not want to waste time. The young lady also notices that he had not spoken so directly before, and after these words it becomes difficult to trust anyone. Although, if you think about it, she herself seems like the most unreliable person in this place, and around there is only impenetrable darkness. After this, the young lady wonders if she chose the wrong side, and then simply continues on her way. She realizes that she hasn't left her work since the morning, and is terribly hungry, so she thinks that she will definitely return here later. And he dreams of tasting abalone with butter, while simultaneously thinking about how wonderful it would be to be an imperial chef. At this point, someone turns to the young lady and asks if she is Adelgis Seaton. Adelgita turns around, surprised, wondering who it is, and the guy only notes that he is interested in knowing the answer. She doubts that it could be herself, and at the same time she tries to understand who this young man is. The young lady speculates that perhaps this is a friend of the prince, although he claimed that he had no friends. She finally asks what's going on, and the guy sighs heavily and says that he thought for a long time about how she would behave in the imperial palace. It turns out she's chosen a rather odd job. The main character wonders if this guy is just an acquaintance or someone else. But fatigue gets the better of her, and she desperately needs to eat abalone. Then she wonders if he stopped her just because of those words. At this point, someone else approaches the guy, offering to leave the girl. After all, it is enough to just observe her arrogance, and talking to her can ruin his reputation. The main character looks closely at the guy and gradually begins to understand what is happening. Suddenly, it dawns on her that in front of her is Adelgita's fiancé, named Seaton, the young Marquis Eli Ganeth. At this time, the young man asks his servant to be quieter and goes to Adele, noting that she still does not seem to understand the whole point, because now she has lost her status and has become a commoner. The guy asks how she dares to behave this way with the Marquis. The boy pushes Adelgid and her books fall to the floor. The girl understands that now she will have to collect them and return them. The Marquis asks what kind of books these are and accuses the girl of another prank. He steps on one of the books and Adelgid watches his actions in surprise, not understanding what he is doing. At that moment, someone addresses Adele, and she turns around, slightly surprised. The young man then leads the prince, who shows interest in what is happening. The protagonist addresses the prince, and the Marquis greets him, expressing his joy at seeing His Highness. Adele wonders why he suddenly becomes so polite. The prince notices the books, and Adele realizes that they are library editions. She explains that she was trying to find cookbooks and was already heading to the room. The Marquis helps her pick up the books and asks why they are on the floor. Then the prince also claims that the emperor personally ordered the banquet to be prepared, and these books are valuable material. And after all, the Marquis allowed himself such behavior. After which the guy asks whether he should regard this as a challenge to the imperial family. The red-haired boy then gets scared and screams that no, and he didn't know about it. And if Adele had told him earlier, he wouldn't have done it. The brunette then asks if the guy knows that this girl works as the emperor's personal boss, and the Marquis interferes with the work of those who works in the name of His Majesty, and he knows that the imperial palace is not a playground. After which the Marquis becomes embarrassed and also claims that he is sorry, but the prince says that if he is really sorry, then let the guy leave because he is in the way in the passage, after which they leave and apologize. The main character thanks the prince for his help, but he only asks what she was thinking when she tried to deal with them alone. The girl says they've already passed that point and asks if the prince would like to indulge in some abalone with butter. However, Kylo asks why she always thinks about food. The young lady replies that Eli angered her so much that she tried to resist. The prince, however, maintains that this is a reasonable desire for any person, but the Marquis openly mocked her. After which the young lady replies that yes, and that was cruel. The girl also claims that he should have been punched in the lips for such words, and the prince claims that it was a cruel but justified act, and the young lady is surprised. And the man claims that she was kicked out of the house, so she is now a commoner, and therefore must respect her as a Marquis. After which the young lady realizes that she too had completely forgotten that social status is important in this world. And it's surprising that she hasn't thought about it yet. Adele insists she'll be more careful. But the guy says that it is not so important now, and the young lady asks what he is talking about. After which Kylo claims that she is now under the prince's wing. Their main character is a little surprised. And the guy says that if the nobility bothers her again, then the girl should use him or the emperor as protection. The main character then understands that he wants to help her, and asks His Highness, would he like to try some abalone with butter? The guy replies no, and also thinks what an unpredictable person the girl is. A little while later, the young lady is already in the kitchen, and one of the cooks asks Adele if she should chop all the vegetables for them. The girl then says yes, and another of the cooks claims that she brought the figs that the chef asked for. The young lady then tells the girl to give it there, and when the ingredients are already chopped and ready. The main character understands that preparing a banquet is an important matter, even though the dish is unfamiliar to them, but the imperial chefs did an excellent job. After which the young lady tells them to watch carefully now. The girl begins to wield the knife and skillfully cuts the ginger. The other chefs watch with interest, and the young lady insists that if you arrange it in the shape of a flower, well then someone else turns to Adele and the young lady asks what it is. She also claims that they are busy preparing for the banquet, but the guy claims that Count Macwood wants to see her. The young lady then thinks about this name and realizes that this is Eli's henchman. After which, the girl wonders if he really called her to make fun of her, but then the girl remembers the prince's words that if he knew, he would bother her again. Then let her use him or the emperor as protection. The guy then turns to the lady, but she claims that now she is not just a lady, but the imperial chief, so let the guy tell the count that. After all, she is busy preparing the banquet, so if the count has something to say, then let him come in person, and she hopes that it is something important enough to distract her from work. The man then knocks on the wall and screams in shock. Did the girl really say that? How dare she ignore him? He wanted to take proper revenge for Eli, but he still understands that this matter concerns the second prince and thinks about what awaits him. One of the ladies at this point says she's curious about what dishes will be served at the banquet. The other then says it's a shame she'll have to wait, since she couldn't sleep all night last night. Then someone else joins their conversation and says he's a little nervous. The lady then asks what he's talking about, and what does he mean? But the guy just asks if they have heard yet. After all, someone told him that the banquet's chef was a commoner. The guy also thinks he'll see Adele again. He'll show her how terrible she is at cooking, and then one of the ladies insists that it can't be true, and His Excellency would not entrust such an important job to an incompetent cook. After which the man claims that this is Adelgita Seton, and no one knows why she left social circles. He also thinks that the emperor left her out of pity, but the lady asks if the guy is being too harsh towards a girl of humble origin. Despite the prince's high position, the guys then claim that it seems they are not yet aware, but if so, then let them listen. After all, they say that the young lady was a street vendor, and she carried a dirty stall everywhere, and also sold sweets for a couple of coins. One of the ladies then asks in shock what she was doing, and the man replies that she was begging for coins, which means she was a real tramp, and that is terrible. After which, he also asks Miss Shitsu if he is wrong. After which the girl remains silent. A little while later, the aristocrats are already talking among themselves, and one of them asks if the others heard that this banquet was organized by a girl who came from the street. One of them then claims that if this girl wanted to earn some extra money, she could have become a teacher, and the woman claims that she can't believe that she even dared to giggle with someone at a banquet. Meanwhile, the count watches the aristocrats and thinks the plan is complete. He also wonders what Adelgida will do, after which he claims that the food will obviously be terrible, and maybe it should be thrown out immediately. He also understands that this is reality. Well, then one of the ladies says, what a pity. After all, she wanted to have a treat at the banquet. And then the other one says, yeah, right. Then the count notices. It seems like the first course is being brought out. Then he approaches the table and declares that he is certain of it, that it will be disgusting, after which everyone looks at this dish, as well as at its presentation. Well, and then he just laughs and asks what it is and whether it is really gherkins with dried figs. But this is a light dish, and there is nothing special about it, and it is as simple as Adelgida herself. One of the women then says that, be that as it may, this is an imperial banquet. Another then asks if it's appropriate to serve such things at a banquet, and that it's a monstrous spectacle. And the cucumbers are terribly pickled, yet almost fresh. The count then tries one of them, and he also claims that he can't believe he has to try this. Well, then he goes into shock, and he understands that this is not just a pickled cucumber, and also wonders why it has such an aroma. It stings in the nose and is so spicy that the man wonders if it is really lemon and spices. One of the ladies also claims that it is delicious and leaves such a fresh taste in the mouth. She can't even believe it's so delicious. Another woman also claims the cucumber is so smooth and glowing, and she didn't even realize it was a cucumber at first. The count then becomes shocked and claims that these are all ingredients and they are fresh, that's all. After which the man takes what is nearby and wonders if this is just some kind of liquid. He also understands that it contains flour and crushed soybeans. The man also thinks that no matter what, he should pretend it's terrible. And he thinks that yes, it's just something sticky going down into the stomach, but this aroma. One guest claims it has a strange texture, and another lady asks what it is. And is anyone familiar with this dish? The man then realizes that this can't be true. The cucumber in this dish is so salty and fresh and crisp, and it has such a mild flavor. And he also can't even believe that one piece can awaken such a crazy appetite. So he decides to try some figs as well. He then does so, and the other aristocrats also put a piece of fig in their mouths. Then the ladies are shocked and can't help but smile while tasting this dish. The other aristocrats also think what a wonderful, sweet aroma it has, and it makes them look forward to the next dish even more. After this, someone brings other plates and states that the time has come. For the main course, it's imperial chicken soup. One of the ladies then asks if this soup is really imperial, and whether the emperor himself gave it this name. Another woman asks what dish was given this honor. After which the man opens it, and the ladies immediately admire this dish. A little while later, the emperor has already emptied his plate, and also claims that no matter how much he eats, he never gets tired of the taste. The main character thanks His Excellency, and the man claims that the dessert at the end is the best, and it has a crunchy, moist texture of salted cream, and the peach juice perfectly complements it all, and the unique sweetness and enticing aroma are like the fruit just plucked from the branch. The man claims that this is the perfect finish, and it is great that this dish was included in the banquet menu. After which he rises from his seat and states that it seems everyone enjoyed the banquet. The man also turns to Rudolph, and he tells His Excellency that yes, after which he approaches the lady with a box. And when she opens it, the main character is shocked to realize that this is the emblem of an exclusive imperial chef. The emperor states that Adele is the chef in charge of organizing this banquet, and that she will be awarded a badge of distinction. He also asks if there are any objections, and the aristocrats, who were surprised by the dish, do not even object. Then one of the ladies turns to Count Macwood and claims that he has eaten every last crumb. He must also have been very hungry to have managed to eat everything after so much condemnation, and probably he will not have enough courage to object, after which the man only says yes. Lady Shitsu sighs after this and also states that she does not hear any objections, which means the banquet was a success. Other aristocrats say that this is true, and one of them claims that she would like to try the chef's cuisine again sometime. The main character, hearing all this, becomes a little embarrassed, after which the man puts a chef's emblem on her. And the young lady, with a smile on her face, tells His Excellency that it is an honor for her. A little while later, the girl returns to the kitchen and the cooks congratulate her, and also claim that now even the nobility recognizes Miss. One of the cooks then asks if the lady could tell her more about the imperial chicken soup. Well, then someone else comes into the room and apologizes, and also says they have something else to say. The main character understands that she is, after all, the emperor's former chef, and the man only claims that it is difficult to stay away and that it is unfair. The young lady realizes that he must be very upset that she is using the kitchen and probably thinks that she has stolen his place. But the man then only asks how she learned to cook so deliciously. The young lady is then surprised and asks what he is talking about, as the man claims that he was very proud of himself when he became the emperor's chef. But the master's irreparable appetite and the constant pain of rejection broke him. And then he couldn't understand what was wrong with this delicious food, but when he saw her eating it dawned on him, and he forgot his passion for cooking. The young lady, meanwhile, thinks it's dazzling. Meanwhile, the man insists that he respects her very much and is even sad to leave everything like this, and also that she now has her own kitchen so that he can't even observe. And he asks if she could give him a couple of tips. After which another cook claims that he also has a request for Miss Adele. Another lady then claims that she is very curious about how she made the imperial chicken soup. after which the main character asserts that it's okay and she will tell them, because she still has a lot to learn from them. After which the lady offers to encourage each other and then shakes hands with the chef, and the man congratulates her on receiving the position of imperial chef. A little while later, the young lady is already heading out with books and realizes that she wanted to learn what ingredients are in this world, but didn't know where to start. And she thinks that the books recommended to her by other chefs will be enough. After all, delicious food really is the solution to all problems, and who doesn't love to indulge? The girl also thinks how happy she is to be a chef, but when the young lady goes further, then suddenly he steps on something, and when he looks under himself, he wonders if this is really his hand. She is also shocked, thinking why there is someone lying there and apologizing to this guy. She also asks if he's okay and if he's in pain. The man replies that he's fine, and also suffering a little from malnutrition. The young lady then wonders who it is. He looks young, so the girl wonders if he's a new employee. Then the young lady asks him if he needs something to eat. Well, after this, the man simply takes something out of his jacket and claims that there is no need to worry because he has it. The main character asks what it is and whether he really eats coal, and the man asks if she is really interested. After which he claims that this is the main treasure of his life, because if you eat it, you will be full for the whole day. The young lady asks him if he doesn't need to eat, to which he replies that he does. Cooking requires a lot of effort, and then you have to clean up, and it's just inconvenient that this coal will save humanity from food slavery. The main character then asks in shock if he is really talking about food slavery. And the man claims that of course this is not the final product yet, and he is going to make it smaller. And as soon as he finishes developing it, the chef profession will disappear. The main character is then shocked to think how long she's been working there, and she was suddenly overcome with fear of losing her job. Meanwhile, the man insisted that their meeting was fate. He also asks if the lady would like to participate in his experiment, as he needs more data. The girl then, shocked, asks him what he's talking about, and she claims that she is a chef, to which the guy replies that he knows. After all, she was carrying recipe books, so it was quite obvious. The girl then thinks it's amazing, and he knew she was a cook, but he still talked about his plans. The guy at this point asserts, if she wants to take part in the research, then let her come to the Western Tower and also ask what the lady's name is. The girl replies that her name is Adele, but insists he doesn't need to know, after which the young lady thinks she was worried about other people. And this guy looks suspicious. Well, he only claims that his name is Elliot Horton. The main character then turns around, a little surprised, and asks what he said, to which the guy replies, his name. The young lady then realizes that she is familiar with this name, and it has never appeared in history, but the name has been mentioned a couple of times. And Elliot Horton is an unrivaled alchemist. He graduated from the Imperial Academy at the age of 16, and at 18, this monster was given one of the towers. And the girl understands that it turns out he is not dangerous, but still thinks that if he is a genius and he really succeeds in developing this strange food substitute, well then she will lose the solution to all problems, after which the young lady understands that she will not allow this. She also grabs the alchemist by the sleeve and asks what his favorite food is. A short time later, the girl is already in the imperial kitchen. He holds an egg in his hands and asks him if he likes eggs. The guy replies that they're good and healthy food. He also emphasized many ideas thanks to the eggs. The girl then realizes she only asked about his favorite dish, and she asks him if he likes eating eggs. The guy replies that it's part of the study and that he enjoys boiled eggs, scrambled eggs, and omelets. He tried all the egg dishes and they would still be digested the same way, so what good would the taste do? But the young lady then asks if he wants to hear her opinion, to which the guy replies yes. And the girl claims that knowledge tastes worst of all, after which she breaks one of the eggs. And he begins to mix some mixture, adding different ingredients to it. A little while later, it is already boiling in the pot, and the man asks how much longer he will have to wait. After all, he already wants to go to his place, after which the young lady claims that she is finished. And he also understands that if he lifts the lid in time, it should turn out very well. After which, the guy can finally see the dish, and then, in shock, He thinks if this is really gold. But then he finally realizes that this is not it, and wonders if the eggs really rose in the pan. At this time, the main character brings him this dish and tells the guy to sit down. He also claims that the spicier it is, the better the taste. The alchemist then asks what it is, and the young lady replies that this egg is steamed, and the steam preserves the aroma and imparts a pleasant taste, as well as a great texture. If he tries, he will understand what she was trying to convey, and the man then takes a piece on a spoon. But then he wonders where the eggs get that texture from. After which, he also tries the dish, but he still puts his spoon back and claims that it was as expected. You can't even call it food. The main character is then very surprised and asks what it is, and the guy replies that it's alchemy. Adele asks what he's talking about, and the man replies that it's the perfect balance of mixing eggs, salt, and sugar, and the texture is reminiscent of the softest pudding. The soft taste of this warm omelet never gets old, and a little while later the guy is already emptying the bowl. And he claims it's unique, after which the young lady thanks him, and the guy says it's amazing. And he wonders if the dish will be as appetizing next time. Such a taste can only be achieved through precise calculations of proportions. And this is a masterpiece created by a real alchemist. After which Elliot grabs the girl by the hand. He also cries out, asking to be taken on as an apprentice. The main character then, shocked, asks him what he's talking about, and she looks at the shining eyes of this guy but still understands that she has already heard this somewhere. The young lady then asks if he wants to learn how to make an omelet, and Elliot replies that he really does, but right now he's more interested in learning the basics. And it seems the girl adds salt and sugar by eye, and he's just as curious as she is about how she manages to achieve such a perfect balance. The main character then wonders how she knows, since she's doing what her heart tells her. However, such an answer will not satisfy him, and she does not think that he will put a spoke in her wheel, since he was impressed by her cooking. Suddenly, the young lady also comes to the realization that Elliot Hardin is the greatest genius of their time, and if they get along, she will be able to acquire modern kitchen utensils. But he can even create a rice cooker, and the young lady understands that she cannot make him her apprentice. But she didn't want to lose contact, so the girl asks for forgiveness but claims that she is not taking on students. Well, the girl also claims they could be partners and asks the guy what he thinks about that. The boy asks if she wants to be partners, to which the girl replies that yes, she's been interested in alchemy for a long time. The young lady also realizes that she's always been drawn to lotteries and that this is something similar. The young lady also claims that she even applied her knowledge of alchemy in the kitchen, but she still understands that this is a lie. And then the young lady claims that she would be happy to receive help from such a great alchemist as Elliot, and this is already true. Now the young lady just looks at the guy with a beaming smile, and he just asks if she says that she wants to become partners with him. After which the young lady thinks whether she is asking too much. And the guy, with a smile on his face, says that she wants to conduct a joint study. After which he claims it's wonderful, since he didn't even participate in research at the academy. The young lady understands that since he graduated at 16, it must have been worth it. And it's good that he liked this idea, but afterward, the guy says that then he will have to stop developing the food substitute. He also claims that he will first go to the tower and collect the materials necessary for the research, but the girl tells him to wait a minute. He also talks about ingredients and portions, but after that, the guy just trips over a bag of flour. And then it falls completely, after which the flour scatters and creates a smoke screen. The main character tries to clear her throat and asks if Elliot is okay, and the guy claims that he is okay, but because of the pain, nothing can be seen. Then he also takes off his glasses, and the main character, seeing his face, is surprised, and he thinks he's so handsome. After all, they say he's not only a genius, but also an incredible handsome man. At this point, the guy asks where his glasses are, and the young lady understands that now she needs to be kinder to him. She also thinks that Elliot is younger than her, so from now on he will be her cute little brother. Well, at this time, the young man is only a little nervous, and then becomes completely embarrassed. After which he covers his face and tells the young lady not to look at him. and he knows he looks terrible, after which he also finds his glasses. But the young lady only cries out that he is not terrible, and the girl asks if he knows that he is the most handsome guy she has ever seen. But the young man then simply puts his glasses back on, and Adele says that she is very kind, but she shouldn't flatter him, although he is very grateful for the kind words. The main character then thinks that it's amazing how he lived all this time if he reacts to compliments like that. The young lady also tells him to get up, and the guy then does so, but still apologizes. He also claims that all the ingredients are spoiled, and she even saw his ugly face. The young lady then realizes that she doesn't care so much about his face, but he really is handsome. After which the girl also understands that she needs to lighten the mood a little, and she asks if the guy could do her a favor since it concerns research. The young man then asks if she is talking about the research and is interested in what needs to be done, and the young lady realizes that Elliot is a very open person. After which the young lady states that she thought it would be great to create a device who could control the intensity of fire, and asks if it is possible to create such a thing. The young lady also realizes that with it she would be able to cook more spicy dishes, and also bake chicken legs and shashlik, and no one will refuse seafood. And they say that Chinese food tastes even better when cooked over high heat, and that sounds delicious. Well, the guy then apologizes and claims that he doesn't think he can help, but he also burned his disgusting face, after which the main character asks why he is talking about this again and wonders if it is really that difficult. The guy claims that only dragons can control fire, and he has already tried a couple of times, but nothing worked. The main character then says that's clear, and he mentioned such an interesting analogy with the dragon, but the guy replies that it's not an analogy at all, it's true. After which the young lady asks if dragons really exist, and the guy only asks if anyone says they don't. The young lady also wonders if dragons were ever mentioned in history, while the guy claims that one appeared a couple of years ago, but it quickly disappeared. Adele then wonders if this world is really that much more dangerous than she thought. A little while later, someone approaches the count, and he asks if he called, and the man asks if this guy is in charge there. He replies that everything is correct, and asks what the count wants. Well, he just covers his nose and claims that it smells terrible, and that he usually doesn't go to places like that. The man also throws his handkerchief at the guy and claims that he didn't think the girl was so talented. After which, he turns to the servant again and also tells him to call his daughter, Adelgid, immediately. A little while later, the young lady thinks she might be the heroine of the novel. She didn't realize that she was a pawn of her parents, and she simply didn't see her potential until the very day she fell into eternal sleep. Then the girl turns to the count and asks if he called. Her father then turns to Adelgida. And after this, the girl looks to the side and thinks that there are other people there too. The man bows to his daughter and asks for forgiveness. He also insists that he won't say anything, that he had no other choice. But he regrets that he just kicked her out. The young lady is then a little surprised, and she also understands that she would be interested in whether Adelgida would forgive him, but personally, she is not going to do this, and this man deliberately played out this scene in public. The count insists he's been waiting for her return, but the girl then realizes what would happen if this man had taken Adele back. Then she wouldn't have ended up so badly if she behaved harshly now. Then people will start to consider her a villain again, after which the young lady asks for her daddy. Will he really return her to the family? After which the man only smirks and also claims that Adelgida knows that a member of the count's family could not work as the emperor's cook, and he thought that she would not want to. The main character then wonders if he is really not going to accept her back into the family. But he wants to use her as a personal chef, and then the girl asks if it means she will never return to the family, but still wonders who this man thinks he is. The count claims the girl will always be their daughter. Even if her name isn't on her family tree in the empire, everyone knows this. The girl then thinks it's very convenient to have an imperial chef at home. But if this had happened earlier, she wouldn't have had to come up with so much. And if you think about it, this is a chance to publicly piss off the count. The young lady claims she only realized her mistakes after being thrown out of her home, and the man claims he had to. And the girl only tells the count that she was so stupid to listen to her father. and mocking Lady Sabrina. The man is then shocked and asks what she's talking about, and Adele claims that she did what he said and it was so immature. The man then asks in shock what she is talking about, and the girl claims that she remembers well. How Daddy stood at the bottom and told her what to do, but he told her to pour wine on Sabrina's face in the name of her father's honor. Now the girl asks her where that honor went. The man claims that there were many witnesses to her impudent behavior, and how dare she accuse her elderly father. The young lady replies that there was poison in the wine that caused inflammation on the skin, and how could she have gotten hold of such a thing herself? But she heard that because of this, Miss Sabrina found herself in complete isolation, and she would like to sincerely apologize to her. After which the young lady asks why not conduct a reinvestigation, because it will show who was really behind this. Count then asks what the girl is trying to achieve, and does she really want to return to her family? After which, the young lady replies that no, and let him not call her anymore, and then she will not start remembering the past again. After which, the man claims that in this case, he will not bother her anymore. However, even though she is surrounded by attention, she is still a worthless cook. And if the dynasty turns upside down, then let the girl be prepared to lose her tongue. After which the man moves on, and the aristocrats then whisper among themselves and say how strange this is. But what will the girl do if the dynasty turns upside down? The main character remains silent after this, and then she remembers how the count said what would happen to her sweet tongue if the emperor was gone. The young lady also understands that she said everything she wanted, but there is some truth in the count's words. After all, no one knows how long the emperor will be on her side, and now there is not a sick emperor on the throne. And the first prince will catch her too, and put her into eternal sleep as revenge for Sabrina. And she thinks even a dragon would be more merciful to her, after which the young lady thinks, okay, she needs to increase her influence to stop fearing threats. But the girl wonders how she can do this, and who she can ask for help. The young lady then recalls how the prince claimed that he knew what it was like to be alone. And he also thinks that maybe he should ask him. A little while later, the young man already asks, "Does the girl really need a knight's title?" She answers yes, and she realized that there is no other way out. She can only ask the prince for help. The man then asks if it was Eli who disturbed her again, or if it was Count Seaton. Whoever it was, his men would deal with them. The young lady then affirms that she appreciates his kind words, but doesn't think they're that important, and she can't rely on his help all the time, and she would also like to go her own way. The prince then sighs and also claims that if he could give such a title, he would have done so long ago. But the law of the empire states that the title of knight is granted according to a very strict procedure, and this is done to prevent the title from spreading among the nobility. The title can only be awarded to those who have rendered outstanding service, and the protagonist asks if he is talking about outstanding. The guy then claims that Adele should contribute equally to the victorious general, after which the young lady thinks it is useless. And she also understands that she thought it would be easy to get the title and strengthen her position. Well, the girl also thinks about what to do now and how to avoid problems, because the relations of the nobility will become increasingly harsh. And the young lady only sighs, while the prince insists that there is still a chance. The main character then asks, a little surprised, what he is talking about, but at that very moment someone bursts into His Majesty's office and screams at him. The guy then gets up from his seat, and the main character realizes that it was the servant who ran into the office without even knocking. Kylo asks what's going on, and the servant, shocked, claims that a dragon has appeared. After which they are all shocked. Brunei asks where this dragon came from. The servant replies, impatient. The prince then points out that it's the West's merit, claiming that major Western cities are already overflowing with refugees. The young man then claims that he must see his father, and that the ambassador will go with his brother, but the servant then says that the crown prince has gone on an expedition, and they do not know when he will return. After which the brunette claims that his dear brother was unlucky, and the main character watches all this with interest. Well, she doesn't understand what's going on, but it seems like it's something important, and she thinks that now is not the time. A little while later, the girl is already following the prince, and she wonders if she can intervene, since she followed him when asked. One of the servants at this time looks at the young lady in surprise, as if asking why she is following His Highness. A little while later, they approach one of the doors, and the main character asks where they are. To which the guy replies that this is a meeting room. One of the aristocrats inside exclaims that he did say there was a dragon's footprint in the sky. The other replies that everyone knows, but he was very surprised when he saw it. The prince, meanwhile, merely locks the door. He also asks why it's so noisy and there's such a rush going on. The aristocrats immediately turn to His Highness, and he claims that they cannot begin a discussion in the absence of His Excellency, after which these people ask for forgiveness. And then someone shouts for them to meet the emperor, and the emperor enters the room. Then he tells everyone to sit down. The main character, meanwhile, stands behind him and realizes there seems to be no room for her. She's also considering whether to leave, but at that moment, someone whispers to her. It turns out to be the prince. After which he tells the girl to sit down and the main character does so. At this time, the emperor asks if this is Adele and wonders what she is doing there. However, the prince only turns to his father and asks how things are going on the battlefield. The man replies that it seems the earth is being overcome by natural disasters, and he thinks that everyone agrees. That it's time to get rid of the dragon, to which people respond that it is definitely true. One of them claims that ordinary soldiers won't be able to cope with the dragon, and that perhaps a message should be sent to a mercenary army, and it also seems that there are 3 strongest fighters in the empire. The young lady thinks about the dragon slayers and realizes that the story doesn't mention anything about that. One of them is Sir Arthur, and he's over 70 years old, but then someone asks if he should be allowed near the dragon, as it would be very difficult for an old man. Young ladies then think it will be cruel. Well then, someone else claims what they say. Countess Dwalin is expecting a child, and the young lady understands that this option is also out of the question. After which someone else claims that for this reason there is no need to even think about them. And the young lady realizes that they were talking about 3 wars. At this point, someone asks who they forgot to mention. The prince then states that he will go, and the young lady understands that this is true. How could she not have thought of it? The guy is the strongest swordsman capable of slaying a dragon, and the 3rd warrior is Kylo. The emperor then says that, yes, this is his son. Meanwhile, the other aristocrats claim they are touched by His Highness's devotion. The protagonist realizes they were waiting because this man turned out to be a prince. At this time, the young man claims that he has a request, and the emperor asks what it is. And the guy asks to let Chef Adele go with him, because they will need her strength on the expedition. Everyone then looks at the young lady in shock and wonders what kind of saddle she has, but the main character herself doesn't know what kind. The girl also remembers their conversation about the need to do something important for the country, and also thinks about what the guy is asking for. A little while later, they are already heading down the corridor, and the young lady is glaring at His Highness. As they move further, the girl looks at him more and more, and the guy then claims that it seems she has something to say, but she remains silent. The young lady then asks what will happen next, and states that firstly, the only knives she has are a kitchen knife, a vegetable peeler, and a Chinese knife. As for combat skills, she has no skills. She only has 12 types of cutting, and the young lady asks if he really thinks it will be useful. After all, if so, then His Highness is mistaken, and the guy replies that he did not intend to ask her for help. He also asks what she was thinking. The girl is a little surprised, but the guy confirms it would be better for their people to dive into eternal sleep, although it is the only ball in the empire. The young lady at this time asks if she really looks that weak, but then claims that he said that he would need her strength, and the guy says that he just wants to take the chef with him. And she did say that she wanted to receive a title for special merits, to which the young lady replied that yes. And the man claims that he will go down in history, and the girl will help him with this, and Adele who destroys dragons sounds great. The young lady then says that they have less chance of winning, and the guy replies that it doesn't matter because their troops will cope anyway. The girl then thinks that maybe they are destined for defeat, and whether this has something to do with his rare appearance in the Empire, and the guy says that she should just sit in a safe place and he will take care of the dragon. But the young lady then thinks that he will probably say that it will be easy for the new Empire with only 3 dragon hunters, and is it really that easy to put dragons into eternal sleep? Well, the girl also understands that this guy doesn't look like the kind of person who would lie to her. And maybe for a swordsman, this really isn't such a difficult task. But this really is a good opportunity to get a title. After which, the young lady states that she would like to say something, and the guy says that it is excellent. He also claims that they will leave tomorrow at dawn, after which the young lady agrees. Well, she still understands that back then, she didn't yet know how amazingly this trip would unfold. A short time later, the coachman insists that the horses are tired and it would be better to stop. The prince, however, insists that he thinks they'll have to pitch a tent, after which he rises from his seat, and the main character realizes that the carriage wasn't very comfortable anyway. The guy then extends his hand to her and also tells her to extend hers to him. The young lady then says that it is not worth it, after which she nevertheless takes his hand and gets out of the carriage. Kylo claims they were lucky enough to find a free corner so they can stay there today. The young lady then remains silent for a moment and asks if they will be there until dawn. To which the guy replies that everything is exactly like that, and then the young lady states that now it's up to her. Afterwards, the girl goes back to the carriage, and the guy asks Adele if she took all the ingredients, since it doesn't seem like there are many things in the carriage. The girl replies that if she had taken everything, they wouldn't have moved, and she only grabbed a few. White rice, various homemade seasonings, and dried anchovies make for a delicious dish. And also a pot, knives, and a frying pan, and the girl asks if this is not enough. But now they will definitely not go hungry. And she also plans to buy the main ingredients in the nearest settlements. The girl also realizes that she's been smelling Cordyceps root for a while now. This is a genus of herbaceous plants in the bellflower family, whose roots are used in traditional Korean cuisine. If you create a spicy sour fusion, fry it until golden brown, and then mix it with delicious white rice, you'll get at least 100 bowls. The young lady is also interested in whether the prince will appreciate the dish, but he is a picky eater. After which the girl also understands that she doesn't know, and if he doesn't like it, then he can eat the dried meat. The young man then asks where she's going, and the girl replies that she will go look for something for dinner. But then the guy follows her. Then the young lady claims that it is not necessary to follow her, after which the guy claims that it is dangerous for her to walk alone. The young lady claims that she doesn't really care and won't go too far. Then the young lady moves on and realizes that the smell is getting stronger, so she must be almost there. At this time, the prince watches the young lady and realizes that she is just like a dog. And when the girl pushes one of the bushes aside, she finally sees a plant there, and she says she's finally found it. Then the girl starts collecting it and realizes that one is for the prince and 2 are for the cabbie, and she digs up 3 roots. The girl also thinks that if only she had a shovel, and when she is going to dig up these plants with her hands. Then the prince, shocked, takes her hand and asks what the young lady is doing, and that she will get her hands dirty. The main character then asks what's wrong, and that she needs to dig up the root of the Cordyceps, and the guy asks if she needs the root and not the leaves. To which the girl replies yes, and the roots are very tasty and aromatic. The guy then asks, really? And the young lady thinks about what he hasn't seen in his life, and now he's worried about her getting his hands dirty, and the girl asks if he can let go of her hand. But after this, the guy only begins to use his power, and the main character turns to his highness. After which the earth begins to shake, and the main character wonders if this is really an earthquake. A little while later, she opens her eyes, and the prince asks if Adele was very frightened. The young lady then tells the prince that the earth just... However, when she looks ahead, she sees that the earth seems to have split in 2. And the young lady, in shock, asks if the prince really did this, and if he can do magic. The guy replies that he simply used a light sword technique. But the girl wonders how to understand lightly. Kylo then asks what she would do if she hurt her precious hands. And the girl asks what he's talking about, after which he understands that only if you remember Adele's hands in the original, and now she claims that working in the kitchen forces her to deal with water. and with fire, so her hands don't look very well groomed because they have cuts and burns all over them, and they are also so rough. However, the guy then takes the lady's hand and claims that these hands prepare delicious dishes. That's why they're beautiful. The main character is embarrassed by this, and the guy suggests collecting the roots. Well, the young lady agrees, but then remembers the compliment the young man gave her, and she realizes it's even a bit awkward, because it's the first time anyone said something like that to her. A little while later, the young lady is already preparing the food, and she understands that everything is fine, because she was worried that the fried codenopsis would not turn out very well, but thank God there are still mushrooms. The girl also thinks that the mushroom soup will be perfect, and then she puts the pot on the fire, and he throws a bag of fish in there. The guy then asks if he can help with anything, and the girl replies that no, and he has already helped her enough with the roots, and she also doesn't want to bother him with little things. The prince then asks if Adele is worried, and she replies that she knows he's a great swordsman. But the boy insists he's simply uncomfortable. After all, Adele is the only one concerned about the swordsman's well-being. The young lady then becomes angry and claims that he will need a lot of strength to defeat the dragon, and she is worried not about the swordmaster but about the prince, so let him eat his fill and get enough sleep. The young man then says that since she asks, he will do everything possible, after which he smiles. At this time, the main character takes out a bag of fish and also states that as soon as the anchovy broth is ready, then you'll need to add mushrooms and a couple of other ingredients. When the soup is ready, the girl moves on to the fried codenopsis, and it needs to be chopped well, and also add ground pepper and a little hot paste. And finally, a seasonal sauce made with garlic, water, and sugar. The girl also thinks it's a shame it's not made with sesame oil and wonders where she can get pepper paste, since sesame oil is essential in Korean cuisine. She also wonders when she'll ever make something like this again. After which she says that you can add the sauce to the chopped roots and fry them. The young lady also realizes that this dish has a great aroma and then lifts the lid of the mushroom soup, and she realizes that it's steeped, and it's time for a meal. The girl realizes that she's created such a quick, fresh vegetable dish. Meanwhile, 3 more eyes peek out from the bushes, smelling the scent. The girl looks at the table, and he claims that he has made 3 perfect dishes from fresh vegetables, after which he tells them to eat it before it gets cold. The coachman also asks if he can join in, and His Highness agrees. After which they start eating, and when the main character tries this dish, then he thinks how delicious it is, but it has the soft taste of boiled white rice. It makes a fantastic pairing with spicy roasted codenopsis root. And the broth is made from green onions and mushrooms, which creates a unique taste. So the girl understands that she prepared all of this herself, but it is simply incredibly delicious. At this time, the coachman claims that he has never seen such dishes, but it turned out very tasty. The young lady then thinks that everything is exactly like this, and probably this time the picky prince will feel all her skill, after which the young lady asks how he likes it. However, the guy with a stony expression replies that their main character thinks this is not a bad thing. Doesn't he like her cooking? The guy then says it's delicious, but the young lady only gets angry, and he wonders if he really tried this wonderful mushroom soup and was still dissatisfied. But he wasn't impressed by the sharp root, or even the codenopsis, after which the young lady thinks that for the people here the fried roots seem quite spicy, but the prince seems suspiciously calm. The young man asks Adele if he can ask her for something, and then he asks if she can stop cooking for him. The main character then goes into shock and screams, asking what he's talking about, and also claims that it seems so. The food turned out to be not so tasty, and the girl almost cries, but the guy replies that no, and it is not her fault. He just thinks he can't taste it. The main character then asks him what he's talking about, coachman, and is completely shocked. The young man then claims that so that he doesn't eat them all. They are very much so that the girl doesn't even know what to say, after which she claims she's sorry and didn't realize she was causing so much inconvenience. However, the guy replies that she wasn't causing any inconvenience and simply has no appetite for him not to eat, and there's only good food left. And the main character insists that if he really thinks her food is good, then why not continue to eat her dishes? But the guy then asks if cooking doesn't cause problems. The young lady then simply asks why he doesn't just cook more, and also thinks that since he can't taste the food, it probably isn't very tasty. And the girl decides that she will cook for him food that, even in small quantities, provides enough nutrients. After which she claims that she likes to cook more, so she is used to leftovers, but it seems he'll have to pour it out, since there's nowhere to put food outside. Then the prince suddenly notices something rustling in the bushes. He also stands in front of the young lady and tells her to step aside, and then something emerges from the bushes. And when the main character looks in this direction, she realizes that it is a fox. Adele also thinks how cute she is. You wonder if she was attracted by the smell of food. But the baby must be hungry. The prince then tells Adele to be careful, because it's a wild animal. And he might attack, but the young lady claims that she thinks he is more interested in mushroom soup. Well, she also claims that there is no meat at all and only mushrooms, and then asks if the baby wants to try it. And she hands him a bowl of mushroom soup, after which he sniffs it and begins to eat. The girl then asks if he has really started eating and then says that she will feed him everything that is left. The little fox then joyfully turns around and makes a sound, after which the main character sees. As other little foxes emerge from the bushes, the girl then says that this fox has a family. After which she sees how they all pounce on the soup and realizes that they are all so hungry. But this is amazing, and the girl wonders if she can really cook for animals too. Then she turns to the prince and thinks that foxes are better than people. A little while later, they've already eaten all the soup, and then they leave. And the girl says goodbye to the kids and says that they owe her, after which one of them makes a sound with a joyful smile and moves on. The prince claims that this is the first time he has seen foxes behave like this, and the girl replies that yes, and it also seems that they wanted to say something. And thanks to them, the pan is empty, so you can relax and wash the dishes. A little while later, they are already heading further, but suddenly the coachman stops the horse. The prince claims the dragon is growing stronger every day. The young lady then asks if that's really true, after which he looks out the window and asks what the hell this is. He also wonders if the dragon did this. The girl also claims that he did say that all this destruction was the dragon's fault, and it seems that this is a rather old dragon to possess such incredible power. The young lady also realizes that the earth is dry as if after a long drought, and it is clear that all living creatures have long since plunged into an eternal sleep in the fire. But this creature is capable of instantly turning any prosperous land into a real hell, and the girl wonders if the dragon is really that strong. Meanwhile, the prince insists that Adele has worked hard, so he'll go on alone. And the main character, in shock, asks him what he's talking about, after which the guy replies that the dragon is somewhere nearby, and he will need about 3 days, and she should sit there and wait for him, after which the main character tells him to wait a minute. And this dragon is capable of destroying all living things, even if something happens to him. Well, the guy claims that if you do everything right, then nothing will happen, and asks the girl not to worry, and also to trust and wait for him there. Adele then tells him to promise to be more careful, after which she also claims that she is not going to hand certificate, so let him promise to return safe and sound. The guy then says that she has so many requests, and also agrees and says that he promises. But he also asks Adele to take care of herself, to which the girl agrees. After which the guy gets out of the carriage and claims that everything should be fine. Well, he still tells the coachman that if he doesn't return in 3 days, then he should take this girl and rush to the capital. The man then agrees with the gentleman, and the young lady understands that she will hold on as best she can. And yet, everything is still going according to the plot, and if Kylo had fallen into eternal sleep or had been seriously injured, he wouldn't have become who he is now, so everything will be fine, and the girl hopes for it. At this time, the guy is heading through the destroyed lands and realizes that the fire is spreading with monstrous force. And even if we manage to put the dragons into eternal sleep, it won't be so easy to restore the lands. Then the young man also feels a strong flow of wind, and then sees the flame and the dragon itself. after which he growls, and the prince realizes that he has a large body and blue eyes, as well as armor and huge wings. The dragon also has a dazzling silver glow and blue light, creating a frightening atmosphere, and at the sight of this dragon, everyone falls into a stupor. But this is the defender of the empire and the king of dragons. At this time, the dragon turns to the prince and asks the descendant of Oberon whether he has come to plunge him into eternal sleep. But it is surprising that such a little one came there. The guy then simply puts the sword on the ground and asks for forgiveness, and also claims that he was stupid by allowing himself to attack the king. The young man also understands that this is the protector who has become the symbol of the imperial family. That is, the king of dragons, and he stands at the origins of a 1,000-year empire. His red liquid is like a river, and the body is like a mountain range, and everything that happens to the nation depends on it. The guy also understands that he is worried because he is not on par with this dragon. And no matter what he does, he must never be put into eternal sleep, for he lives and perishes with the empire. So says the great legend, and if the king disappears, the empire will lose power and begin to crumble, and ultimately, all humanity will come to an end. But if such a dragon is evil and wants to destroy the planet, there's nothing he can do. The boy also recalls how the young lady asked him to promise to return safe and sound. But now, he still mentally apologizes to Adele and also understands that he might have to break his promise. After which, he turns to the dragon and asks Togo to tell him what he needs, and for the entire empire to unite to fulfill his desire. The dragon then claims that he has lived too long a life and is now bored, so let Oberon's son put him into eternal sleep. The guy then asks in shock what he is talking about, and the dragon replies that he knows that he is capable of finishing him off. And if the guy puts him into eternal sleep, then all his treasures will belong to the prince. With these funds, he will be able to leave the dead lands and found his own empire. After which, the dragon tells the guy to interrupt his dreary life. Kylo realizes that he is familiar with this look. He is cold and reflects despair, and also in advance of the soul, and he has forgotten everything that he once valued. He also began to wait for the day when the villages would completely dry up. The boy remembers his father, and then also the candy, which he was very happy about. And he also thinks that maybe he should tell the dragon that life is not always so joyful. After which, the young man turns to the Dragon King and asks if he would like to try his chef's dishes. After all, this girl's cooking has no equal in the entire empire, and she will cook something that he has never tried before. The dragon then asks if she will cook the food, and the guy replies that yes, and he swears on his honor that if the dragon tries her cooking, then the despair will pass, and in his thoughts he adds that Adele's food intrigues even such a picky eater as he. The variety of tastes and aromas simply cannot leave him indifferent. The dragon then claims that this sounds interesting, and asks if this guy knows how many different dishes he has already tried. Among them are delicacies that the guy had never even heard of, and neither had his cook. But the prince then asks if the Dragon King has tried the imperial chicken soup, because the broth is rich, but the meat is simply the softest. The dragon then asks how this dish differs from regular chicken soup, and the prince claims that the meat is thoroughly cooked so it can be easily separated from the bone. Moreover, inside the chicken itself there is soft rice and chestnuts, and when mixed with the broth it creates a unique taste. And not long ago she prepared a spicy dish with aromatic roots, because when you bite into them, the unique and sweet aroma spreads in your mouth. At this time, the dragon is thinking whether this description is too colorful and not enough for 5,000 gold, and he also wants to hear more about the food. The prince understands that he cannot prove it, but he was able to at least roughly describe it. But this description doesn't seem to capture the taste, so the guy wonders why. The dragon asks if he'll continue, and the young man then says that it's better to let the dragon try it himself, because his chef is not that far away, so it won't take much time. The Dragon King then says that the guy's words really interested him, but he also asks if the guy himself decided that she is the best in the entire empire. And maybe the prince just fell in love and is exaggerating her skills, after which the guy thinks in shock, could he really have fallen in love with this girl? After which he claims that he did not fall in love, and that Adele is simply the best cook in the country. But if a dragon ever tries her dish, he'll see for himself. After which the dragon asserts that the guy leaves him no other choice, and if he doesn't want to fight, then he offers to argue, after which he also claims that few people can put him into eternal sleep against his will. And one of those people is Oberon's son. Therefore this is fate, and he will try this dish, but if he remains unimpressed, then the guy will have to take responsibility and put him into eternal sleep. After which, the prince looks resolutely at the dragon. Meanwhile, the heroine sits by the fire, and she realizes that Kylo has been gone for 2 days, and she hopes everything is okay. Meanwhile, the coachman insists that it's true. There are only 3 days left, but then the young lady sees the prince and cries out that he has come, after which she also turns to His Highness the Prince and claims that he has returned. She also asks if the guy is hurt, but he only falls to his knees and asks Adele to forgive him. The girl then asks in shock what he is talking about, and that he has nothing to apologize for. However, the guy then claims that he told the Dragon King about Adele, and the young lady is a little surprised. And she also thinks, why talk about her, and she is hearing about this dragon for the first time. After which the young lady wonders if this dragon will really eat her, and the girl already imagines how the prince will claim that this chef has been preparing the most delicious dish all his life, so it must be very appetizing. At this time, the guy says that everything is not right, and the dragon behaves like his father, so he decided that her food can help. Their main character realizes that the dragon seems very old, but he had enough power to turn the lands into ruins, and then the young lady claims that it turns out she must cook for the Dragon King. After which the guy claims that this is exactly how he also remembers how the Dragon King claimed that this chef must be the best. And not just in the guy's subjective opinion, he simply asserted that proving she was the best in the empire wouldn't be easy. The dragon then said that, of course, everything is not so simple, and people love difficulties. And now, the main character, in shock, asks if he really wants to organize a culinary competition. And is he really going to choose the best chef? That's a big responsibility, isn't it? The prince then apologizes and claims he tried to convince him, but the Dragon King is very stubborn. And if the girl can prevent the disaster, she will improve her situation, and he tried to recommend her, but it all ended in a competition. She bravely escorted him to this dangerous place, but it was all in vain. The young lady understands that this guy truly feels sorry for her, but then she also says that it's great, and her burden is a little surprised, and also asks what she's talking about. The young lady claims that if she wins, she will receive the title of the best chef in the empire, and she will tame the dragon. The girl also claims that she has already won similar competitions, and the guy asks when. And the young lady then claims that, rather, she was always ready for them, and she is grateful for this opportunity, and this is also the best outcome, so there is no need to apologize. The young lady also says she has something important to tell him. The prince is then a little surprised and asks what she wants to tell him. The girl simply thanks him for keeping his promise. The young man then claims that he wouldn't say he fulfilled her request, but the girl then replies that everything is fine, and the main thing is that he returned safe and sound. Kylo is then a little surprised, after which he completely lowers his gaze, embarrassed. He also suggests going quickly because the competition ends in 15 days, so we need to speed up. The main character now understands that she understands, and the prince always changes the subject when he is nervous. The girl also says that when she returns to the carriage, but suddenly the ground begins to shake and the young lady falls off her feet. She also understands that it seems like this has happened before, and the prince then claims that it seems like the dragon is returning the earth to its usual appearance. After which the young lady is surprised and asks what it means to return well when she looks at the dry earth. He sees that grass and various flowers begin to grow from it much later. They already find themselves in the middle of a clearing, and their main character is surprised and also understands that just a couple of minutes ago, there were lifeless lands stretching out there, and the young lady thinks that this power belongs to the dragon. She also thinks about how she can surprise such a powerful creature, after which she turns to the prince. She also asks if he really believes that her dishes can impress a dragon. The guy then asks if he should tell her honestly, after which the young lady says yes, and the young man claims that he is sure that her food is unique since even he felt it. Therefore, let her not doubt herself, because the dragon will never be disappointed in her cooking. A little while later, the girl is already looking at her head chef badge, and she also says that you need to believe in the best, believe in creativity, she has no equal. And the main thing is that it is delicious, and besides, she will be able to feed not only the dragon, after which the girl says that it is time to begin. And no matter what the opponents are, victory is hers, after which the young lady bursts into the room. But at that very moment, she hears someone scream, and then they see Elliot lying in front of them, after which she asks if he was really standing at the door. He also asks if everything is okay. The guy then claims that everything is fine, and he wanted to show something, and the young lady wonders if he really wanted to show his face. After which she thanks him and claims that she has a real surge of energy. But the young man claims that he hasn't shown anything yet. Then he takes out something and says he wanted to introduce it. The main character picks it up and asks what it is, after which the guy just laughs evilly and also claims that he has a product that will protect Adele from bad people. But the young lady then asks how it will help her, and the guy claims that if she attaches it to her opponent and also whispers something further to her, and the main character claims that this is it. A little while later, the girl is already running as fast as she can and also realizes that, as usual, she got too carried away chatting with Elliot and is now late. The girl then breathes heavily and then sees the location of the culinary competition. People then whisper among themselves, and some of them hope to share the dishes, while others are interested in whether the reward is cool. The girl then asks to be allowed to pass and claims that she is a participant. Well, then she suddenly starts falling and crashes into one young man, after which she apologizes. But when you look at his face, you think who it is, and whether it is really one of the participants. The guy just bows at this time, and the young lady thinks that maybe the whole thing is because this is an affair. But there really are plenty of handsome men there, and handsome guys rarely appear in history. The girl also thinks that now is not the best time, so it is necessary to take advantage of it. Well, at this time, someone asks if everything is in place, and the girl understands that this is definitely the stage where the competition is taking place. And nearby there are participants, after which the young lady understands that it seems they have gathered there all the chefs of the empire, and they are true rivals. The young lady then thinks she needs to calm down and give it her all. After which, she also recalls how the prince claimed that he was sure that her food was unique, since even he felt it. And now the girl understands that she should not doubt herself, and she will believe the prince. The servant at this time claims that in the first round, the palace will provide all the necessary ingredients. The main character, looking at all this, only admires, and the man claims that it is time to announce the first category. After which they open the screen, and then everyone screams in shock, asking what it is. Chefs also ask what they should do, and they can't believe that this is such a difficult category. The young lady is also a little surprised, and the guy she bumped into first just smiles. Then the young lady sees that it says there's a unique dish, unheard of in history, required. And the main character is shocked to realize that this category suits her perfectly. The man then claims that during the allotted time they can ask for any ingredients, after which he claims they can begin the competition. The protagonist then goes inside and wonders how many polished utensils and spices there are. After all, there's enough for the dish. Afterwards, they bring the girl pork, spinach, carrots, shiitake mushrooms, and onions. The young lady then asks if they brought what she asked for, and the man replies that they only bring well-tested ingredients. After which he also claims that he looks at the products and cannot even imagine what she is going to cook, but the girl replies that the main thing is that the dish matches the theme. And the man then turns to Miss Adele and also states that they are all waiting for honest assessments from the Imperial Palace, and also His Excellency has high expectations, so let her try her best. The main character realizes that he is always watching her and what a thorn he is, but then the young lady finally agrees and also tells them to trust her. After which the girl turns around and starts cooking, and the man realizes that he is relying on his expectations. But he feels uncomfortable because the fate of the empire has fallen on the shoulders of the chef, and there are more participants than he expected. The man also looks at one of them and understands that if he is not mistaken, then this is it. However, the guy then looks at him, and the servant only turns around and also hopes that everything will go well. At this time, the main character begins to cook and wonders if everything will work out for her. But she has already prepared enough amazing dishes. Well, she also made her own noodles and is only familiar with the theory. The girl also realizes that she's never made homemade noodles before. And if you mix starch with water, everything will work out, but it is important to watch the proportions. After that, you need to pour the mixture into a frying pan and put it on low heat to prevent burning. Once ready, you need to cool it and place the noodles in cold water. And then wash it thoroughly and chop it thinly, after which everything will be ready, and now it's time for the rest of the ingredients. The young lady realizes that there are carrots, mushrooms, and onions left, and then also cuts the pork. And she will grease it with garlic and salt, after which the girl will taste what she will grease the pork with. And she understands that there is no more perfect combination. After which she understands that she needs to add spices and mix well. And the japchae is ready to be served. The girl looks at the dish and realizes that it looks delicious. Well then, someone says that there are 15 minutes left, and the nth lady understands that it is not time to rejoice yet, because time is not up, and everything needs to be prepared. The girl also understands that the appetizer and main course are ready, so only dessert remains. At this time, someone announces that there are 5 minutes left, and then 3, and a little while later, the man claims that the time has come to present his culinary masterpieces. He also addresses the judges and claims that they can start giving scores. One of the men then claims that he expected something unusual, but this is already somehow strange. And another woman asks if he thinks that among the chefs there are newbies who rushed to create a wonderful aroma and did not take taste into account at all. Then another judge asks why they're judging such idiots, and shouldn't the chefs have gone through a rigorous selection process? The woman also claims that she heard that some people got there on the recommendation of the imperial family and other nobles. But the servant claims that according to the rules, judges are not allowed to know the identities of the participants, and all dishes must be judged solely on taste. The green-haired lady claims that naturally she will evaluate fairly, after which she approaches the bark dish and also claims that the creator of this snack must have a stomach of steel. The man states that he gives this dish 0 points, after which they move on to the next ones. Well, he claims that this is a mockery of products, and another judge claims that she has no effect. The green-haired lady at this time claims that she had high expectations from this competition, but all the creative dishes are inedible, and the edible ones have no creativity at all. The man claims that he thinks this is all that today's chefs are capable of. And in their time, such half-baked cooks would have been pelted with stones long ago. Meanwhile, another judge is scooping up the main character's noodles. Meanwhile, the man turns to Mrs. Henrietta and asks if she agrees, but the woman is then shocked by the taste. Another judge then approaches the noodles, and she claims she's never seen a dish like this before. Another guy claims it's amazing. The noodles are just so shiny, after which he asks if it's really something like spaghetti. The man then claims that the most important thing is how it will taste, but then someone claims that it is delicious. The woman says that this dish retains a pleasant texture even when cold, and the balance of salt and sweetness is indescribable, and she has never tried noodles like this before. Also, this harmonious combination of ingredients is simply mind-blowing. The woman then opens the dessert, and her colleague asks if Mrs. Henrietta has appreciated the dish. But the woman insists that no matter what the dish, such a dessert is not even worth trying. And, unfortunately, this participant is disqualified. A little while later, someone claims that it seems the results will be announced earlier, and many people are leaving the competition. One of the ladies at this time says that she would like to win, and the main character understands that the chefs took the competition more seriously than she expected, and they probably don't know that it's connected with the dragon. But it seems that she heard that the best chef will receive a special prize once, and not because of this everyone is on edge. At this point, one of the guys asks if his interlocutor is talking about Ferris Miarno. He then replies that he is, and it's obvious, since he's not so much interested in winning as in the prize. The young lady then listens to this and thinks, what kind of prize is there? But she was so lost in thought about the dragon that she didn't even look at the prize. And the girl wonders if there's anything cool there. But it's obvious in the original. Well then, someone asks everyone to gather. The woman claims that she is pleased to meet and is responsible for announcing the results of the first test. At this time, one of the judges turns to the woman and tells her to look at the girl with the voice. After which the woman does just that, and also remembers how they looked at that watermelon dessert. The man told Miss Henrietta that he could not believe that she would exclude a chef who spoke so highly of her and asked what dessert she was talking about. After which the man lifts the lid of the dish, but at the same moment, he is shocked. He sees a watermelon in front of him with tiny pieces of fruit floating in it. He then asks what it is, because this mixture doesn't even look like dessert. Another judge argues that the watermelon pieces floating in milk look odd, and that if creativity is the only consideration, a couple of points could be added. Well, she says that you need to eat what's inside the watermelon, and he even lost his appetite. After which the man says that this chef should be immediately expelled, and another judge claims that there are spoons and bowls, and this chef put a watermelon rind in the dish. And this is something new, after which the man claims that these young chefs, they know nothing about cooking, and the smell speaks for itself. A woman understands that if you only evaluate the main course, she would give it 10 points, but now she is also wondering what kind of dessert this is. Well, then one of the judges says it's delicious, and it's also his first time trying it, and he thought it was just milk with fruit, but the taste turned out to be tart, like strong champagne. The woman then says that she should also try it and puts this dessert in her mouth. He wonders if this is milk with carbonated water. But the soft taste of milk is mixed with sweetness, and the indescribable taste of a refreshing dessert spreads in his mouth. The young man then declares that milk goes perfectly with fruit, and the watermelon is wonderful, and the lady with green hair says that it would be great if the dessert was cooler. Well, she's still willing to give the dessert more points than the main course. Then another judge asks if they are teasing him, and he doesn't believe them. And now he will try it himself and prove that it's disgusting. After which he brings this dessert to his mouth, but then comes into shock and thinks that it is very tasty. The green-haired lady claims that a total of 30 candidates were selected in the first round of the competition, and the announcement of names starts from the end. Then she starts reading out names, and the woman realizes that the dish was prepared by the lady with blue hair, and she looks young. But you shouldn't judge people only by their appearance, because even she is a professional in her field. I mistakenly judge dishes by their appearance, and I have a lot to learn from this young lady. Then someone announces that Adele is in first place, and they ask the first place winner to stand up. The award ceremony begins. The other chefs then ask who Adele is, but another also wonders if he doesn't know. He's the imperial chef after all. The young lady then wonders why they're presenting this award so formally, after which he approaches this woman and thanks her, and she expresses gratitude for the wonderful dishes. Another judge then asks if she can ask a question, and in fact she has several. The main character then asks what it is, and the judge claims that she has never seen such elastic noodles before. And at first she thought that the girl used gelatin, but then she realized that in that case, it would not have had such a texture, and she wondered how the young lady did it, after which she also asks how she made the soda milk she presented for dessert. Another judge then turns to Ms. Henrietta, a little concerned, but she just asks what's wrong with asking the question, because if not now, then when? And the guy insists that it's still an award ceremony. At this time, the main character is only wondering if this is Henrietta, and she is not so familiar with the world of cooking, but she knows this name, and this woman has golden hands. She owns the largest restaurant in the empire, and is very strict about hiring staff, making her the boss of its culinary world, which many are trying to break into. A prime example is the Dalgona business, and the girl can't believe that such a person is interested in her cooking. After which, the young lady realizes that this is her chance and turns to Henrietta, and also states that she is very pleased that she appreciated her dish, and asks if she'd like to talk privately later. The woman insists that personal meetings are unacceptable at competitions, so they can chat after the contest, and the main character states that she can't wait and also understands that she needs to make connections in order to open her own shop later. Meanwhile, another judge says that, according to the scores given, Chef Adele demonstrated excellent skills. The first place award is a flat knife. The young lady realizes she doesn't know what it is, but it sounds cool. After which the young lady looks at it and thinks, "What is this?" Because this knife looks like an ordinary one. After which she half-heartedly thanks them, but the judge tells the girl not to be modest, because she deserves this prize and her food is wonderful, and she also perfectly maintains proportions, which is a rarity in the culinary world these days. After this, the participants leave the hall, and the judges announce that in the second round, the participants who have passed will receive instructions personally, and that they have worked hard. At this time, the young lady examines the knife and realizes that no matter how you look at it, it's just a knife, and the girl wonders what flat means and whether the imperial family has really cheated her. Well, she still thinks that this knife is at least beautiful and she could sell it and make a little money, but she's still wondering what such a knife is for. At that moment, someone approaches her, and the main character wonders who is getting in trouble again, and whether they are really not afraid of people with knives in their hands. But then the girl is a little surprised, because she sees in front of her the same handsome man she ran into, and then she wonders why he suddenly started talking to her. The blonde is just getting closer at this time. He also addresses the young lady, but then only asks how she got first place, and the main character is shocked. After which she even asks if he is really saying that she stole his place. And she also imagines how she will ask him if it really belongs only to him. Well, the girl still understands that now is not the best time, and he is so handsome, so she will not get angry, and the nth lady claims that maybe she really is a good cook. But he only asks what she is talking about, and no matter how well she cooks, no one can beat him, and it must be some kind of setup. After which the young lady asks if he really wants to say that she bribed the judges. The guy screams that this is simply impossible, because Mrs. Henrietta is famous for her justice. Hey, the girl then asks, what about 100 million pentas? However, the young man claims that even if he offers 1,000 pennies, she will be adamant. And then the young lady asks what he wants from her, and the guy just gets embarrassed. After which he tells her not to delude herself with a win in the first round, because he'll show her what he's capable of in the second. The girl then thinks that's great, and she's already experienced so much there, that a little discontent does not frighten her, and the young lady says that it's okay, and she will also wait and asks what his name is. The guy then claims to be Ferris Miarno, and the main character wonders if this is really the Ferris everyone's been talking about. And the young lady asks if he wasn't the one who took second place. But this place is also quite an achievement, and sometimes the place number means nothing. The young man then asks how it means nothing, since she now has a flat knife. And this is my great-grandfather's knife because he called it flat because no one used a flat knife for preparing the signature dishes of the plains. The young lady then says that it's clear that this knife isn't so easy to make. The guy claims that this knife was given by family decision, and he couldn't have imagined that it would actually become the prize for first place. The young lady then hands him the knife and claims that he can take it, after which the guy is surprised. And the main character claims that he is part of the family and also helped her, so let him consider it gratitude. Well, the guy then claims that she won through honest work, and the young lady asks, didn't he say that there was a misunderstanding and that he is so strange? The young man is only embarrassed by this, and also claims that he simply didn't think anyone would be able to beat him and take first place. As for the knife, his grandfather loved meeting new chefs, so let her keep it. The guy also screams that this is not yet the final victory, so she will still see. And then, embarrassed, he runs away, screaming that he said it all. The young lady then realizes that all the handsome guys there are strange. And a little while later, someone claims that the category of the next round remains unchanged, and this is a unique dish, unprecedented in history. But this time there are conditions, and you can only use the ingredients you find. And this time, bringing your own ingredients is prohibited. Then everyone asks if they really need to find the ingredients, and where in the imperial palace they can even look. The woman insists that they will understand everything when they look around, and one of the men says to open the door. The cook then asks what this is. And this can't be, and Fierce asks how this is possible. And is it really true that the competition will be held outdoors? After which other chefs will ask if this is really paradise? And also, how is this possible? And one of the judges claims that as they see, many ingredients can be found there. And, of course, it will not be possible to find all the ingredients, but a good cook will be able to come up with a wonderful dish in any conditions. And considering the need to collect the ingredients, the total preparation time is 3 hours, and this will be enough time to prepare the dish. After which, the judge shouts that he wishes them good luck and all the chefs can begin. Then one of them claims that he has no ideas at all, and everyone rushes off to buy groceries. At this time, the main character looks at her workplace and realizes that this time there are also a lot of seasonings there, but there is not even any sauce. But there is salsa. A little while later, the girl is already heading into the forest and wondering where the sky in the building came from. And he also thinks that they really created such a magical place in the room, and it is obvious that it is all his. And she keeps forgetting that Elliot is a genius. Meanwhile, one of the cooks claims he heard there's a meat warehouse there. But the other one replies that he doesn't think they'll find anything decent there, and he thinks that the judge didn't just say that they wouldn't be able to find all the necessary ingredients for nothing. After which, one of them asks where to find a cow, a pig, or a chicken. And the main character wonders if they are really talking about entrails, after which she approaches the river. And she catches different seafood there, and also thinks that it's great that she went to the beach as a child. And the girl has a few too many caricatured exaggerations, and the young lady then realizes that this should be enough. After which she goes to her place, but when she sees her neighbor, she understands that this is the same handsome man, and she, of course, also feels uncomfortable standing next to someone who considers her an enemy. Well, everyone must try their best. After which the young lady tries to tear the squid from her bag. The guy at this time watches his soup, after which everything goes somewhere. The young lady wonders if some new ingredients have come to his mind. Well, she still thinks that it's dangerous to leave a bubbling pot unattended. Then the young lady also sees someone approaching the pot, and he sees this guy doing something there. The young lady then watches in shock, and then asks what he's doing. But the guy runs away at that very moment, and the main character screams for him to wait. But at that very moment, the knight sees him. When the young man returns to his saucepan, he says that this guy spilled all the pepper and the dish can't be saved. One of the judges then asks why he did that, and another boss claims that it's their own fault, because they shouldn't have given such difficult tasks. But at that very moment, the woman grabs him by the collar and tells the guy to tell everything. After which, the guy claims that he thinks that now he will definitely not pass the competition and screams. She didn't want to knock it out alone, so she decided to drag the famous chef from the Miarno family along with her. The main character then wonders if this guy really decided to ruin someone else's dish. Meanwhile, the woman takes off the bandage around his neck and claims that she cannot believe that a person in this kitchen would do something like this and that he does not deserve to be a chef. She also claims that in the future, he won't even be allowed near a vegetable peeler and screams at him to get out of there. After which this guy is taken out, and one of the judges says that she is very sorry, but the rules are very strict, and anything can happen while cooking, but fortunately there is still time. After which the guy answers that yes. Then he goes to his place and cleans his tools. The protagonist then asks if he needs ingredients. She thinks she can borrow some vegetables. The guy then claims she doesn't have any avocados. But the girl says that there is no need to be rude, because you need to be able to work together, but the guy claims that at least now he wants not to be in debt. But the young lady claims that she is not going to ask him anything, which makes the guy surprised. And the girl then claims that she simply thinks that it would be unfair to lose. And he devotes himself entirely to cooking, after which the guy looks away and says okay. He also needs some garlic and green onions. The main character hands him a bowl of vegetables, and she tells him to take what he needs and also asks if he needs anything else, to which the guy replies that if anything, he will say. The main character then goes to her place and says that it's good, and the guy then gets a little nervous. He thanks her. The young lady then wonders what he's doing and whether he really has to show the sincerity of his intentions when necessary. And with a smile on her face, she says it's no problem. A little while later, she realizes she's finished with the preparations, and only the secret ingredient remains. But when the girl is about to leave, she realizes that Ferris's kitchen is destroyed. And although this guy has already been punished, she is overcome with doubts, and you can never predict a person's plans. The girl then also takes something out of her bag and remembers how the alchemist told her that if someone tries to harm her, the girl should attach it to the person's back. And if it works, then she will be able to track the location of this person. After which the young lady asked if this little thing really had so many functions. The alchemist claimed that as soon as this thing is attached to the back, it becomes transparent so that no one will notice. The young lady then thinks that if Elliot lived in the modern world, he would become the king of patents. She also understands that if she places it like this, the sticker will stick to itself, and she understands that it is, of course, better not to resort to this. But because of what happened, it is necessary to improve security, after which the girl goes out for groceries. And then one of the cooks comes to her place, but at that very moment, someone behind her makes a sound. He becomes frightened and immediately runs away, while the knight watches her silently. At this moment, someone addresses the prince, and he asks what the matter is, but one of the servants claims that the guest said that he did not like the design of the comb and ivory. He also threw it out of the window, and another servant claims that he broke a vase, saying that he didn't like the appearance of the rose, and he thinks that he will have to change the room and also clean up, and nothing will be done. The prince then asks if it is really happening again, and also says that they should try to be as friendly as possible. The servants agree, and the guy thinks how picky the dragon is. And he wonders if he is doing this on purpose so that he will be forced to fulfill his promise. But what if Adele wins? So the guy hears someone say they're giving 100,000 points to Adele, and another says they're betting 500,000 points on Ferris. At this time, the prince is thinking about what this is about, and one of the guys asks him if he thinks this is real chicken soup. But banquets and competitions are a special matter, so one of them asks what else to expect from an exiled girl. Kylo realizes he can't believe she's betting on him. This is precisely why noble persons should be barred from entering the imperial palace grounds. Then one of the guys asks the count who he would bet on, and he says that he would bet 10 million pennies on Afrold. His Highness then wonders if this is too much, and one of the guys asks if the guy is serious and is really ready to spend so much money for a joke. The other one then claims that he will pretend that he didn't hear anything, but the count then asks what they are. And do they really think he's joking? At this point, one of them asks if he's serious, and another one claims that Alfred actually took third place and that this girl really shouldn't be so bad. One of the guys then asks if he wrote her a letter, and he's probably full of hope, but 10 million is too much, so let him not say anything later. However, the man insists that he won't, and they also agreed, and they'll see how it all ends. The prince, meanwhile, thinks this is rather suspicious. At this time, the main character comes out of the refrigerator and realizes that she has finally succeeded. But it's good that no one touched her soup, so she still has plenty of time, and the young lady then thinks that maybe she should pick up some more vegetables. And the girl also thinks that maybe it's all because she worked in a shop, and without a sufficient supply of vegetables, she begins to worry. And the girl also thinks it's great, because the competition went wonderfully. But when the young lady returns, he sees spilled soup in front of him, but when he looks at the sticker, he realizes that it is not there. And the girl wonders if someone did this on purpose, but she still wonders how it happened. And did no one notice? At this moment, a blonde man passes behind the young lady. And when he sees that her soup is on the floor, he asks how this happened and who came up with this idea, since this idiot was taken away. The main character understands that Ferris is surprised, and it seems that it was not him. But she does not want to think about it, but the girl claims that she thinks that it was not only that guy who had evil intentions. After which, the young man claims that he will bring her to the judges, but the girl replies that this will not help. And this time they don't know who is to blame, and even if she catches him, she won't receive compensation. After which, the girl also tells him not to worry and to take care of his dish, since he also doesn't have much time. The blonde then worries about Adele, but she insists everything is fine and she won't give in. So the girl pretended to remain calm, but at least she said so. However, now the young lady understands that she is finished, and she is so worried that she cannot even catch a shrimp. She also doesn't know whose doing this is, but she will track him down and finish him off. At that very moment, someone jumps into the water, and immediately a stream of water pours down on the young lady. The main character then wonders what it is, after which he sees a fox there and also thinks what it is, but then she doesn't understand that this is the fox that she fed soup, but the girl also thinks how this is possible. And how did the fox she saw end up so far away in the imperial palace? And did she really imagine it? Her consciousness can't cope. Then the girl rubs her eyes and looks at the river again. He realizes that the fox is no longer there. But a little while later, she jumps out from under the water, and he takes out a shrimp. The main character then asks if she's really going to give it to her, after which the fox puts the shrimp down and pretends to smile. A little while later, she approaches the shore and sniffs something there, after which she tears up the earth, and she takes out an octopus from there, but it then falls on the fox's face, and the main character tells her to wait, because she'll clean it up now. The girl also claims that she does not know how this happened, and is interested in how the fox got there, and also how he realized that she needed shrimp and octopus. But the fox just starts to get angry, and the main character asks if there is something behind her when she turns around. Then she sees someone jumping out at her, after which the girl is a little surprised, and he also asks if it's Ferris. The guy then sees the ingredients in the young lady's bowl. She asks if he really came for the ingredients, and she too is almost finished, so she'll step aside. The young lady also realizes that water is dripping from this guy and wonders if he was really fishing. Meanwhile, the main character leaves and turns to the latter, thanking him for his help and claiming that after the competition, she will prepare a bunch of goodies for him. The blonde man looks at the shrimp in his hands and wonders if all this was in vain. A little while later, he approaches the young lady's table and places the shrimp on the table. The main character then asks why she needs it, and the guy claims that these are leftover ingredients, and the young lady asks if he also cooks dishes with shrimp. But when the girl looks behind his back, she realizes that the guy is cooking barbecue, and she doesn't even understand where he got such a huge chicken leg because she's never even seen one like it. At this point, the young man asks if she doesn't like something, and the girl replies that she doesn't, after which she thanks him and also claims that the more ingredients, the richer the taste. The guy then sighs and says that there isn't that much there and he just doesn't like awkward situations. But when he notices the fox's gaze on him, he curses it. The young lady asks the guy not to slander her because the fox had helped her so much. After which the young man asks what about him, and the main character claims that of course he does too. After which the blonde smiles, and then turns around shyly and says that that's all. Then the guy goes to his seat and the girl says that she will definitely use shrimp. She also looks at the pot and realizes it's not time yet. There are some obstacles in her way, but she thinks that she will still be able to prepare the secret dish on time, and it will be a spicy casserole. After this, the young lady finally cleans all the ingredients and thinks it would be great to add some soy sauce. Well, asking for something like that would be too greedy, so the young lady takes the red sauce in her hands. And she thinks, why not add it? The girl also turns to the forest and asks if it's interested in what it is. Then she gives the jar to him to smell, and the fox closes his nose, and the main character asks if the smell is strong. Adele claims that it is fish sauce, and it is made from fish, so if you create the perfect combination. Instead of soy sauce, an unforgettable salty aftertaste will follow. People here don't particularly like spicy food, but according to Korean canons, this is ideal, and if she had a little more time, she would have worked better on the ratio. But now one of the judges says that there are 10 minutes left, and the girl understands that there is no time to think. After which he pours this red liquid onto the soup and understands that all that remains is to hope that everything will work out. A short time later, the judges are already evaluating the dish, and one of them claims that the quality has improved significantly since the last round. And he also thinks that now at least they can appreciate it. Then they try the ravioli with finely chopped scallops. One of the judges says it's delicious, but she doesn't see much difference from the shrimp ravioli, and there's nothing special about it. Then they move on to the lightly fried chicken gizzards with sauce. One of the judges declared it delicious and had a great texture. One of them claims it tastes amazing but says they used some unusual ingredients, and she would like to give extra points, so let them make a short list of successful candidates. Then they come to another dish, and one of them asks who cooked it. Some claim it is the chef who placed third in the last round, Alfred Dilker, and he made noodles with vegetables and meat. But the judges then looked at the dish with distrust, and one of them claims it's very similar to Adele's dish in the first round. Another judge claims it's just spicy pasta with a different presentation. The lady with green hair then tries the noodles and also claims that she didn't try them. That's why you can't fake the emotion and the noodles are softer. Another guy claims that although it looks similar, it's a completely different dish. However, the woman only screams at how the participant dared to copy someone else's idea, and this is shameful and disgraceful. Another judge claims he doubts the dish was even homemade. And the lady with green hair claims that this participant will be disqualified. Then one of them lifts the lid of Ferris Miarno's dish, and it must look impressive. But when they open the dish, they're very surprised. One of the judges asks if it's really ham. And another guy asks where the participant got so much meat, and doesn't it mean he'll be disqualified for using ingredients from a meat warehouse? Well, the young man then suggests cutting it up, and maybe there are several pieces of meat there. When a guy runs a knife over a ham, he thinks it's so soft and it's like cutting air. And when they cut the ham, the woman claims that this can't be, and the guy asks how this participant came up with this idea. A little while later, they are already approaching another dish, and he claims that Adele's dish is left. The man claims he liked Ferris's dish and doesn't think there's any point in watching the rest, but the lady with green hair claims they're gay. I wonder what Adele cooked. After which the main character claims that she opens it and the judges see this dish. One of them asks what it is, and the guy claims that everything is red, and that is quite strange. The young man also smells this dish and asks if this is really a soup with ground pepper. At that very moment, he covers his nose and screams. The other judges ask what's going on. The guy says it's very spicy and doesn't think he can try it. Then the man scoops up some of the dish as well, and he asks if it's really poison. But, honestly, if the girl hadn't taken first place in the last round, he would have disqualified her immediately. Well then, the woman claims that this girl cooked the best dish, so you can at least try it. And then she tells the man to eat it. Well, he just asks if she really wants him to end his life there. A little while later, the cooks are already waiting for the results. The main character approaches one of the guards, and he asks if she can't find her fox, after which she claims that the entrance was immediately closed, so she decided that he was somewhere inside. The guy claims he's sure the leaf just ran off somewhere, but if they spot it, he'll definitely let the lady know. The girl then thanks him, and he also understands that it's generally strange that there's a forest running around there, but he's a smart kid, so he must have gone about his business, although she's still a little worried. At this time, the judges come out and say that everyone did a great job and the dishes were up to par, so the decision wasn't so easy. Then the woman looks at the lady with blue hair, but he turns around and insists he can't keep them waiting. Adele wonders why this woman won't look her in the eye. And usually if you catch someone's eye, you have to smile sweetly, but the young lady is wondering if it's all over and she's lost. At this point, the judge announces that it is time to announce the first place winner. Ferris Miarno takes first place, surprising the young man. The main character, however, realizes that she's always won before. She was also an award queen, but in this world, all her achievements mean nothing. And the girl realizes that she simply had little time, and if her pot hadn't been knocked over, Ferris too had faced the same thing and still won first place, so the museum has no excuse. And she lost. The girl also understands that Ferris immediately declared his desire to win, and he must be over the moon now. Well, when a young lady looks at a guy, he wonders why he's so downcast. At that moment, the young man feels the athlete's gaze on him and looks back at her, which makes her a little startled. The boy, however, only feels embarrassed. At this point, the judge also claims that another person shared first place with him. All the chefs then, shocked, ask what she's talking about and what kind of nonsense is this, since they promised to choose only one winner. However, the the woman orders everyone to shut up. The judges reached this decision after a lengthy debate, and Ferris Miarno's enormous ham immediately attracted the critics' attention. However, as all the contestants know, nothing else was presented except the entrails. Everyone became curious about where the guy got such a piece of meat, and they looked inside. And then they saw that there was a watermelon there. Everyone then asked if it really was a watermelon ham and how the guy came up with that idea. At first glance, it seems that the cut of the steak is juicy and this dish was cooked to perfection, and in terms of originality, it has no equal. When the woman tried the dish, she realized that the texture was pleasant, but it was too liquid, and unfortunately, nothing could be done about it. It was delicious, and the ingredients were perfectly chosen, as the hot and salty seasonings go perfectly with the sweet watermelon. The green-haired lady insisted that history had truly never seen such a dish, and it was astonishing. The other cabinets also whispered among themselves, and one of them insisted that it was as expected from Miarno. Another then wondered how the boy had even guessed that. Meanwhile, the woman says that Adele's dish was also very spicy. Meanwhile, the main character thinks that the woman hasn't even started looking her in the eye. The judges recalled them saying the dish was too spicy and asking for water. The man claimed he'd never had a meal make his hair stand on end. The woman insisted they'd never tried anything like this before, and it seemed their spicy dishes weren't compatible at all. She also understood that the dish was, in any case, extremely spicy. So much so that it is difficult to discern the true taste of the ingredients. But the more you get used to Austrian food, the better the dishes taste. And over time, interesting notes begin to unfold. Appetizing shrimp and fresh octopus with a piquant yet mild flavor. The woman understands that the girl used offal, and the best restaurants wouldn't often serve such a dish, given the low price and the taste buds. And usually people eat stewed meat with offal, and the woman wonders if this girl was inspired by that. But the dish gives off a lingering aroma of offal. It's difficult to mix with other ingredients, but the sauce holds everything together. The other judges were eating it all at the same time and claimed that the more you eat, the more interesting the flavor. The guy claimed he couldn't stop eating it, and that, although it was spicy, it was addictive. The woman thought it was terrible, and that it would be great if the dish were a little less spicy. Now the judge claims that Ferris Miarno has a great idea and taste, but the cat from the tour let down some of the ingredients. Adele's originality and combination of ingredients are top-notch, but the lack of clear proportions was disappointing, although it didn't spoil the dish. And the woman claims that if anyone has any objections, they can raise their hand, and she asks if anyone considers themselves better than these two, but the cooks just remain silent, after which the lady with green hair smiles. And he also claims that then they can continue, and everyone knows that the competition is held in 2 rounds, but there is still something left because they are waiting for the final assessment, and in the end only one winner will be chosen. Afterwards, the woman wishes Ferrusa Miarno and Adele good luck. The final will take place tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the Imperial Palace's specially designated hall. The main character understands that the last judge will determine the winner, and it seems that the results will be announced on the same day, but it must be the dragon, and the final score will depend on him. A little while later, the young man with blonde hair already greets Adele. Hey, the girl greets him back, and she thinks why he is so happy to see her, because considering his words that he will still show, and this is not the end, the girl thought that he would be upset that 2 people took first place. Well, the young man at this time asks what it was like to lose to him, and the main thing about the game is that he doesn't understand that it was expected because he was so happy because he wanted to show off. Then the main character claims she didn't hear him declared the winner, but if that's how he wants it, then let it be his way, and that he who laughs last laughs best. The young man then asks what she's talking about, and insists that no, and that he will win. After which the main character says okay and suggests wishing each other good luck, after which the girl leaves. But she still thinks how to stay calm now. And after all, meeting with the dragon can change her whole life, so she can't waste her nerves like that. The blonde man is embarrassed, thinking it's a bit hot in this room. A short time later, they find themselves at the competition site. The young woman turns to Ferris and tells him not to be surprised later. The boy then asks what she's talking about. The young lady suggests not focusing on grades and simply giving it their all to cook wonderful dishes. The guy then asks her what's going on, and the host insists it's time to announce the finale. All they have to do is recreate the dish they prepared in the previous round. All the ingredients are provided, but if they need anything, let them know. To ensure optimal conditions, they didn't impose a time limit. The guy then smiles and claims they have endless time and plenty of ingredients. But the main character insists he won't get extra points for a larger portion, so why is he so happy? But the young man claims that yes, he can prepare several dishes and then choose the best one, and when cooking meat, you need to pay a lot of attention to controlling the fire. So the conditions are only to his advantage. The girl then argues that keeping the judge waiting is a bad idea and asks if he thinks so, and the young lady also understands that this is especially true when it comes to a narcissistic dragon. A little while later, they are already looking at the ingredients. And when the girl takes the shrimp out of the aquarium, she is surprised. And she understands that these shrimp are much better quality than those that she caught herself, and in the last round she did not even have enough time to choose the ingredients, and she also has a feeling that she is preparing a banquet in honor of the founding of a nation. Ferris fries a watermelon in a frying pan, and the main character realizes that this guy is certainly unusual and she is from another world, but not everyone would think to so boldly break the usual notions about dishes. The judges didn't say who won first place, but judging by their reaction, it would have been better to announce that she won second place. Hey, girl, she thinks it's all about the wit. She also realizes that time was running out, so she couldn't come up with anything better. This time she has plenty of time to adjust the seasonings. A little while later, someone asks if the participants are finished. And the main character puts her dish on the table and also says yes, after which she opens the lid. And he shows off his updated dish. Ferris does the same and says of course he's ready. Then the host declares it's excellent and asks them to wait. The main character also thinks about where these people are being driven and understands that if you think about it, the dragon is the size of this hall, and the girl does not understand whether he will be able to taste the food at all, because for him everything is like a dollhouse. At this moment, the door opens and a gust of wind blows towards the chefs. Ferris asks if the young lady is okay, and the protagonist is confused as to what's going on. After which a guy with white hair enters the room, and the main character thinks what a handsome man he is. The dragon approaches them at this time, and also claims that everything is not as he was told, and also asks if he should not have tried the dishes of one of the best chefs. He waited so long, and they couldn't even choose a winner. Adele realizes that even though the dragon is in human form, he still seems like the greatest creature, and she has this terrifying feeling right now. Looking at the dragon's hands, she realizes it's definitely him. The dragon is simply asking if he should rate the dish or burn it to ashes. Then the dragon also looks at the dish, and he claims that he doesn't like that there are two of them, but okay, so let them consider themselves lucky that there aren't three. The main character realizes that the dragon must have taken human form. And the young lady also looks at Ferris and understands that it seems he was immediately scared, and did he really notice something strange? The young lady thanks him for his understanding and tells him to trust that he'll be satisfied with their dishes. The dragon then asks, "Is that so?" It doesn't sound very earnest. He also hopes that her culinary skills are as honed as her sharp tongue. And she is, after all, the prince's chef. The boy then looks at Ferris and then at his dish, wondering if it's fried. The boy replies that it is, and the man insists that it appears quite a bit of time was spent on the presentation. The dragon also asks what it's made of, but Ferris tells him to try it and then he'll understand, after which the man cuts into the dish and is surprised. The young lady thinks it's quite interesting, and she already knows watermelon in the States, but it still feels like fried meat. The dragon puts a piece of meat in his mouth, but then becomes completely surprised and starts devouring the dish. The heroine realizes that if he liked it, it won't be so easy for her. But at that very moment, Ferris turns to Adele and suggests that they run away. The protagonist is then a little surprised and asks what he's talking about. While the dragon eats Ferris's dish, the young lady drags the boy under the table, whispering what he's doing and why they need to run away. But the boy then asks if she didn't feel anything. He also claims that if she doesn't know, and the main characters understand, Ferris must have noticed that this man is a dragon. However, the guy then claims that this judge is, in fact, a vampire. Adele asks what he's talking about. The guy simply claims that he used to think it was just tobacco, but vampires really do exist. The girl then thinks that this look would really suit this guy. Ferris claims that they say that a monster that drinks human red liquid lives in the Imperial Palace, and the girl wonders if this is a Western legend about vampires. The young man then claims that he remembers her words about not being surprised later and suggested that he should give his all to prepare wonderful dishes. And now the guy asks if she knew about vampires, but the girl claims that he is not a vampire because he is the oldest dragon. The girl also asks if he liked this dish, to which the man replies that yes, and also that this is a pretty tasty watermelon, and he will let this guy off the hook for the pathetic comparison with a vampire. Ferris then claims that he was wrong and asks for his forgiveness, and the dragon claims that he is finished and it is time to try the second course. Then he picks up a piece of the dish on his fork and puts it in his mouth. Afterward, he feels the taste and his eyes light up. The main character then wonders if this is really fire, and whether he breathes it, and if it is dangerous. The dragon only claims that it is delicious and very appetizing, and he also hasn't eaten something like this for a long time and thought that in their time, people don't know how to cook spicy dishes. But he says how amazing it is, because this cheese softens the unusual spiciness of the dish and the sweetness, salt, and also the spiciness. Everything is in its place, and the texture is superb. Adele understands that the dragon liked her food, but he only asks what the dish is called, after which she replies that it's shrimp and octopus. The man claims it's a pretty self-explanatory name and asks the boy if Ferris is his. He also tells the boy not to be upset, but he liked Adele's dish much better. After which the young man claims he understands, and the main character realizes she's blushing and she never thought the dragon would be so easy to determine the winner. Meanwhile, the man insists he'll have to come up with a reward and turns to Adele's boss. Then the girl is engulfed in flames and Ferris excitedly claims that Adele is on fire, but the girl claims that everything is fine and she is not hot at all. At this time, the dragon claims that talented people should be rewarded with their abilities according to their merits, and now she will not be afraid of fire, and all his descendants will revere her. The man also claims that it seems the young lady has already met his family, and the protagonist asks when. And he claims that soon she will understand everything herself, and then the same fox who helped the young lady appears in the air. The girl then hugs him. The dragon claims he's only 900 years old, but he's quite skilled, and the main character is shocked, wondering if he really is that old. The dragon claims that he is a smart child who understands everything perfectly, and usually there are no problems communicating with him. And to be more precise, it's the spirit of fire, and it will also continue to follow him. The main character claims that it has been helping her all this time, and she immediately realized that this was no ordinary fox. And the young lady asks if it turns out that he has abilities and also asks what his name is, to which the dragon replies that he has no name, because in the family he is the only fire spirit with starlight, and everyone recognized him even without a name. Then the main character asks if she can name the latter, and the dragon insists that it's strange, so let her do whatever she wants. Ferris, meanwhile, stands there in a stupor, unsure what's going on, so he can only stand there silently. The main character realizes that she knows a suitable name for the star forest, and then claims that his name will be Mars, and also asks what this name is for him, after which the fox only smiles. A little while later, the girl is already holding the award in her hands, and the prince congratulates her on her victory and claims that it is truly amazing, after which the main character thanks him. The guy claims he's sorry to announce that she won't be getting the title. The young lady then asks why, and the guy replies that she's now becoming the dragon's chef. The young lady wonders if she won't be given any title, and that it turns out she can't avoid the status of a commoner. after which the girl thinks that this is a meaningless face and she thought that she would receive the title after the competition, and she wonders why everything has changed so much. The guy replies that he's sorry to report it, but regarding this matter, Count Seaton. The girl then wonders why she's hearing that name again, and the prince claims that he resolutely opposed the assignment of the title, and he heard that he was going to return the young lady to the family, after which the girl claims that this is a lie, to which the brunette claims that he also thinks so. A little while ago he appealed to His Majesty, and he only stated that if Adele was granted the title, then her father would no longer be able to take his daughter back, even if he could. Tony would simply take away that opportunity. The prince then tried to object again, but the emperor told the boy to listen, and that he too was a father, so let the young man understand that he couldn't do that. And now the young man claims that he can't do anything then, and the main character claims that he must have been unable to resist the emperor. Kyla then tells Adele that he's so helpless, but the young lady thinks otherwise. The girl also recalls how the dragon addressed her and told her to tell the prince that he won the bet. And even though he lost, he was still happy because he tasted the amazing dishes, and the prince begged her to trust him. He also believed in her very much. So now the young lady claims she thinks he tried hard enough to at least be treated with respect, and the prince is the only person in the palace who is capable of taking her side, so now the young lady rises from her seat, bows, and thanks him. The young man then claims that she deserved this award for her dedication to the cause, and even that is not enough. After which the young man extends his hand to her and claims that there is no need to thank her. But when he is about to touch the young lady, the leaf immediately bites his hand, and the main character, in shock, asks what Mars is doing. The young lady immediately takes the fox from His Highness and asks if he's hurt, to which he replies that everything is fine and just a few scratches. The girl then realizes she thought the latter was cute and insists that people shouldn't be bitten, and if it happens again, they'll have to say goodbye. The prince then asks if this is the same fox, and the girl replies that let her know he is the spirit of fire, and the young lady also says that this is interesting, and who would have thought? She then also asks if Mars has thought about his behavior, after which she hands the fox to the prince and tells him to apologize. But he just turns around, and the girl then insists that it's fine, and that he'll have to make amends in another way. She then asks His Highness if he's eaten yet, to which he replies no. The main character tells him to follow her and lead her to prepare a stunning dish. A short time later, the young lady is already using the power of fire and preparing the dish. The girl then thinks that this fire is perfect and the sound is perfect, which means the temperature is ideal. The girl also tells Mars to wait because there's just a little bit left. After which she cuts something else about the prince and asks what it is, after which the young lady replies that these are bamboo shoots and he can also try, to which the guy agrees. A little while later, the girl takes another ingredient and the guy asks what it is, and Adele replies that it is a tree mushroom, and the prince wonders if it is edible. Adele claims that, of course, she is interested in whether these mushrooms are similar to poisonous ones and maybe she should try them, after which the guy replies that no, and he just wanted to study the ingredients better because she knows so much. Adele then wonders where this sudden interest comes from, and, if you think about it, everything has become a little better, because before the guy claimed that he wasn't particularly interested in these recipes. And the young lady thinks maybe it was her dish that had the effect. Vadim, meanwhile, watches the young lady and thinks it's amazing, considering she enjoys cooking so much, and she healed the emperor. The dragon was also surprised, and he couldn't understand where this mysterious power came from, and he wanted to know. A little while later, the girl declared that everything was ready. She realizes that the buttery aroma pairs beautifully with the sauce and touches her heart. Then the young lady also asserts that ttangsuyuk is a warm sauce that pairs perfectly with the meat, revealing a new flavor with each bite. Of course, it's sweet and sour pork, and this unique combination is created by adding the sweet and sour sauce to the hot meat. The young lady is tasting it now, and she realizes that thanks to the frying, the meat gets a crust, and the onions give it an amazing aroma, while the mushrooms and crispy bamboo shoots create an amazing texture, after which the girl declares that it is delicious. Then the fox finishes his portion, and the main character gives him more, claiming that he's helped her so much that he can eat. The girl then watches as the fox eats the food, and he asks if it's too hot for him, since he's eating with such an appetite. And it's wonderful to be a fire spirit. Well, the young lady then realizes she wasn't worried about Mars, and that the problem lay elsewhere. Then the girl looks at His Majesty. Well, then he sees in shock that his plate is empty and wonders if he has really finished, and also wonders if the prince has really eaten everything, to which he replies that yes, and everything was delicious. The girl then asks if he is telling the truth, and the guy replies that yes, but it is too salty, and the main character asks how he likes the dish. After which, the guy insists it has a perfect combination of sour and sweet. The meat is very juicy, and the sauce is wonderful. Adele says the prince described the taste in such detail. The guy then insists he expressed himself incorrectly last time. The young lady asks if it's not that he can't taste it, but that he simply doesn't find the food appetizing enough. To which the young man replies that any taste seems ordinary to him unless the dish is delicious, and many dishes simply have nothing special about them. The protagonist then asks if this is true, after which she claims that she thinks he could become a true gourmet. And people born with such sensitivity to tastes need very delicate food. He can only eat what he likes. That is, he simply hasn't found a dish to his liking, but the guy claims that there are no biological preferences. However, the girl then insists that he'll see her again and that she can help. Then she asks if he can imagine how delicious the food will be if it's prepared according to his preferences, and if he's excited. The guy then wants to say something, but at that very moment, the alchemist bursts into the room and shouts that he congratulates Adele on her victory, and he had no doubt about it. The protagonist is then a little surprised. The guy claims he has good news too, and then asks if she's worried. He then approaches her and whispers that he found out who ruined the food. The main character asks if this is true, and the guy is already about to say something, but the prince interrupts them, claiming he's sorry. He then takes the alchemist's hands from the young lady and steps between them, insisting he wants to know too. The guy then bows and declares his pleasure at greeting His Majesty, and he replies that the feeling is mutual and asks what's going on. Adele wonders what kind of atmosphere this is, and if you think about it, she decided to keep the location of the competition a secret for the time being, after which she realizes that she needs to come up with something, and the girl turns to the prince and also claims that she completely forgot that she just had a meeting with Elliot. The girl also turns to Mars and tells him to go there as soon as he finishes eating, after which the latter jumps to the young lady, and the prince at this time asks what kind of meeting this is. Elliot then claims that he and Adele are doing research, and he is interested in Adele's culinary skills, so she sometimes helps him. The prince then claims that he would also like to look at this research, but Elliot apologizes and claims that this will be problematic. After all, the crown prince is behind his research, and if he wants to look at his research, he will first need to get permission from the prince, and if he gets permission, he can visit his laboratory at any time. The guy just gets angry after this and says, "What impudence is this?" The main character then wonders why he's so abrupt and why the alchemist suddenly started talking about the prince. After all, she forgot that Elliot is on the side of the heir, and yet she thinks that she shouldn't have responded so harshly to Kylo. But even if he doesn't care, she does, and her position in society depends on this. The prince notices the young lady trembling and declares that thanks to her, the day has turned out so wonderful. The girl then turns to His Highness. He simply insists that she's right and that he needs to find food he likes. The main character then rejoices and asks if he really says that, and that it's a great idea, so she'll help him. And if he needs her help, he should just say so. For now, let him try the dish. And she needs to run, so she hopes he'll like her. The protagonist then heads down the hallway with the alchemist and asks how he found the culprit, to which he replies that she'll figure it out herself now, and he wants to show it quickly. Then the two of them enter the lab, and the main character is surprised and asks how come there's so much science fiction there. The guy then asks if it's great and claims that it's a new development, after which the young lady asks if he was really going to show her this. But he replies that no and tells the girl to look at his assistant. The young lady then asks who this assistant is, and the alchemist claims that he gave the invention this name, after which he tells the young lady to look, and the main character asks what it is, to which the guy replies that this thing can record a voice. And you can set it up in advance, it will also record any voice. The sound can then be played back, because the guy inserts the ball into the mechanism and it starts playing the recording. Someone there claimed that everyone must know the competition continues until the second round, where the participants will be judged. The main character understands that this is the announcement of the competition results. The woman then claimed that one winner would be announced in the finals, and the young lady wondered what that meant, and then she heard a voice that claimed that he had said to make sure that nothing happened. And he ruined their food, but they still came out victorious, after which he tells the guy that he risked his life, and the main character thinks what this means, and also whether the same person is really behind the spoiled food. Then someone screamed, wondering if the guy even knew how much he bet on Alfred, and he'd actually given up 10 million. The main character thought the voice sounded familiar. Afterwards, someone asks if Count MVK would really want to lose that kind of money, and the main character realizes it's definitely him. Another man in the recording claims that if things get out of hand, he'll be in trouble, so he should give up the money he promised. The young lady realizes that high-stakes bets seem to be heavily placed on the winner, and Macwood has placed a substantial sum on Alfred. He plans to ruin the first and second place dishes to ensure Alfred wins. The man in the recording then tells the guy to contact Marquis Scannet and see if he can lend him 5 million. Well, the man insists he can't. And then the other one said there was nothing to be done and he'd have to tell them that the Count was involved. The man then just screamed, and the guy insisted that if he gave him 4 million pennies, he'd keep quiet. The main character wonders if it's really all about the deal, and that it's such a shame. Afterwards, she wonders if these bigwigs really have nothing better to do. Then someone else turned to Turbian and asked where he had gone, since he had been ordered to gather, after which the guy said okay, and he went. He also told the Count that he shouldn't forget about the money, but he only screamed at the guy to wait and that it wasn't the end yet, and he also couldn't give the money back. Now the alchemist asks if the young lady heard, and they themselves leaked all the information. So what fools these guys are, and thanks to the conversation he managed to find out who was talking to Count Macwood. It was the Guardian, Turbian Silver. The main character then asks if the Guardian really did it, and he could have ruined the dish himself. The other theories were not confirmed. The alchemist at this time claims that he will never forgive him for such dirty tricks, after which he asks if Adele will tell everyone about this, and if she can believe that this is irrefutable evidence. However, the main character remains silent after this and claims that she would never do this and also understands that she should not tell anyone. After which, the girl claims that she will not tell anyone, but let him keep it a secret and there is no need to tell about the servant. However, the guys claim that he is her assistant, and the girl claims that it is better not to tell anyone about her invention. The young man then wonders why these two intended to spoil the dishes, and he wonders if the young lady is not evil, and she replies that she is evil, but there are more important questions. And also, does he really report to the higher-ups about all his inventions? After which the guy replies that not always, and he was told to bring only important things. He also asks if the girl doesn't want others to know who helped her, to which the girl replies that yes, and she thinks that it wasn't worth inventing at all, but the guy then claims that it was for her sake. After which, the main character wonders if the smart, handsome guy really did something for her. But his appearance is already driving her crazy, and frankly speaking, this is too much, and she admits. After which, the girl claims that she really appreciates it. Well, if people find out about the existence of a device capable of monitoring conversations, then confusion will begin, and it can even be used to eavesdrop on them. The guy then claims that if she tells everyone about Macwood's deeds, she'll gain support. She herself was worried about this, lest His Majesty Kylo find out about their conversation. The main character then wonders why he suddenly started talking about the prince. The guy simply grabs the young lady's hands and insists, "Okay," and it will remain their secret. Little did the two know then that their desire to get rid of Macwood would lead to unimaginable consequences. A little while later, the girl is already preparing spicy pork legs with garlic, as well as pork legs with vegetables. The young lady places them in front of the prince and asks which he likes more. The girl also claims that the dragon was delighted with the pork legs with green onions, and he likes unusual dishes. Afterwards, the young man tastes the two dishes and claims the first one leaves a rather unpleasant mouthfeel. The second one has a sharp flavor, combining sweetness, sourness, and a hint of salt. The main character says they leave such a different impression. Then he claims he thinks he liked the pork trotters with vegetables better, and the guys say it's similar. Then the girl says it's great, and it turns out well. He's not really into spicy food, so maybe he'll try this. After all, you need to take a crispy cucumber and meat. Then the girl holds it all out to the guy's mouth. Well, he just gets embarrassed and also claims that he can eat it himself, but the girl just tells him to try. After which, the prince opens his mouth and eats from her hand. The main character asks if it has a pleasant texture and if it's the best dish on a hot day. However, the guy only looks embarrassed. He also realizes that Adele is keeping him from focusing on the taste. Meanwhile, the girl says it's wonderful, the dish was a hit, and there's only some left. After which she also turns to the pile of dishes and says that it never ends. Then the young lady also asserts that it's time to deal with it. At that very moment, someone else enters the kitchen and addresses Adele. The young lady is a little surprised to see Ferris standing before her. She also claims that she thought he had already returned home and asks if he is still in the imperial palace. But the guy replies that he will not return. Afterwards, the main character asks him if he's become the imperial chef, and the young man replies that he was hoping for it and wonders if there aren't any openings. Mr. Edwin recommended him as the young lady's assistant. Meanwhile, the main character wonders what kind of assistant he is and what that means. He also asks if she needs an assistant. The guy is a little surprised and claims he's Ferris Miarno, but the young lady replies that it doesn't matter, and the young man then asks if she really doesn't need him, after which the main character understands that if you think about it, she doesn't even know whether she needs an assistant. At this time, the guy with red hair is talking with other aristocrats, and one of them claims that he heard that his ex-fiancée became the imperial chef and he is not really aware of it, but now all the talk is about this. So let the guy say hello to Miss Adelguide. Another of the aristocrats asks if they're really done talking and who dumped whom. The young man then simply throws his glass of wine on the floor, causing it to break, after which he heads into one of the rooms and loudly slams the door. The guy says that they are just making fun of him and that he specifically did everything to no longer have anything to do with this woman, and now he cannot believe that he found himself in this situation in just a couple of months. The young man also thought that she would never appear before his eyes again, and that she meant nothing to him. But now the guy claims that she not only got close to the imperial palace, but also secured support, and now he managed to avoid the conversation, saying that this could happen again. Hey, the guy is thinking about how to get rid of her. Meanwhile, someone else addresses Eli. Meanwhile, the other boys are talking among themselves. One of them says the first prince's influence is growing. Another claims His Majesty is still alive, but judging by the way he walks and talks, it won't be for much longer. After which he also asks if anyone has seen the Marquis, since he hasn't been seen for a long time and disappeared after that deal. One of the aristocrats asks if he really lost a lot of money. He also asks Eli if he knows anything. The guy then asks if they're talking about McWood and also says that he hasn't been following that fool for a long time. The guys are a little surprised, and Eli asks, "Haven't they heard yet?" The main character is cooking something and insists that garlic should go next. Then the guy hands her the garlic and says he chopped it. He also asks if he needs anything else cleaned, after which the main character is only surprised and thanks him. Ferris insists that of course he should help her, and the main character realizes that Ferris's help turned out to be very useful, and he cuts all the food and also washes the dishes. And now the girl understands what it's like to work with an assistant. The guy insists she's a great cook and he still has a lot to learn, while the girl insists he used to make spicy barbecue sauce. Well, he replies that yes, but there was only a little bit of it, and it seems that it was then that she taught him that with the help of accents you can make a dish more interesting. The main character then becomes a little embarrassed and also claims that she didn't think that he would take it so seriously. But at that very moment, a fox flies between them and growls, but the main character turns to Mars and tells him not to do that. Meanwhile, the blonde asks why this leaf is hostile to everyone, except her. To which the young lady replies that it is she who is stressed out, and that he is so affectionate when he sits in her arms. A little while later, the alchemist also enters the room and announces that he's here. The protagonist then greets Elliot, and the boy thinks it's that narcissistic scientist again. The young lady then asks if he wants something to eat, and the guy replies that of course he does and asks if there will really be soup today. The young lady replies that yes, and she thought that His Majesty was not feeling well, so she prepared a light soup, onion soup with arancini, and it will be ready soon, so let the guy wait a little. The young man then asks what arancini is. The girl realizes it's usually made by mixing risotto, coating cheese in breadcrumbs, and frying. But her arancini is a rice ball filled with flying fish roe that just needs to be coated in breadcrumbs and quickly fried. At this time, the blonde guy claims that he will cut the baguette, and the girl says that it is excellent and everything is fried. Afterwards, she serves a special onion soup with the baguette and mozzarella cheese, along with flying fish caviar. The alchemist then picks up his knife and fork, declares it looks delicious, and suggests they hurry up and eat. Ferris says he'll try it too, after which they all take a bite, and the main character can't help but smile, realizing that the agent has been soaked in the well-fried onions and salty meat broth and has become soft. And it's the perfect pairing with mozzarella cheese. The blonde man insists that the arancini is truly magnificent, and the caviar pairs wonderfully with the fried food, and he's sure His Majesty will be delighted. The main character then asks if Elliot liked it, to which he replies that he ate it, and an idea came to his mind, after which the guy immediately runs out of the kitchen, and also tells Adele that they will see each other later in the lab and he will be waiting. The main character is then left with the blonde man in shock, and he asks what he's doing. The girl then realizes she's thinking of the fortune teller with the dish. A little while later, she enters the laboratory, and the guy immediately greets her, after which the young lady asks why he jumped up so suddenly. The guy then claims he put an arancini in his mouth and something hit him in the head. After all, sometimes you don't notice ideas hidden somewhere in the recesses of your mind, like fried fish. The main character realizes she doesn't know what he's talking about, so she asks if he can get to the point. He then becomes a little nervous, and then he even proposes marriage. Adele, shocked, asks what he's talking about, then tells him to wait and tell her everything from the beginning. The guy then says yes, and asks to let him explain, and also claims that you can look at arancini and tell me what's inside, and then you put it in your mouth and suddenly the taste of caviar begins to unfold, and that's when this idea came to him. First, he'd like to show the young lady something, and he's already mentioned marriage. The heroine then asks what he wants to show her, and the young man lifts the curtain. He claims he managed to find out where Macwood is, and the guards ignored him. The protagonist asks if he can really track the location, and realizes the division issue has already been discussed. The guy then claims that he was lucky that he had a model of the capital in his lab, and he used his developments to calculate its location. Elliot also tells the young lady to look, because now he is at home but he doesn't think about the main game. Is he really so sure? But the more you find out, the scarier it is. At this time, the young man claims that he is interested in what the guy is planning there, but it is not so important. After all, he realized that many villains are now turning against Adele, like predators against fish. The protagonist then realizes that she thought Elliot was up to all sorts of nonsense, but it seems he understands the workings of the Imperial Palace much better than she thought. The girl then claims that she also knows a lot, because the position of the Imperial Chef is not so easy. The young man then tells her not to worry, because he can now protect her, and doesn't ask if that's why he asked her to be his wife. To which the young man replies that yes, and then they can always be close. Afterwards, the main character simply smiles and insists that she's grateful for it, but that's too much. The guy then asks why the young lady insists that marriage should be with the person to whom you're ready to dedicate your life. After which the guy claims that he wants to dedicate his life to Adele. The girl is embarrassed by this and also asks what he is talking about. After which the guy claims that he is not joking and has thought everything through carefully. After which he asks her to say again whether Adele will marry him. The protagonist is silent for a moment, but then replies that she will not. After which the young man is surprised and tells Adele that this is not possible, and he thought about it for a very long time. But the young lady claims that she is grateful for this and also understands that she almost agreed. After which the girl asserts that marriage is an important matter that does not tolerate recklessness, and that it would not be better to first deal with McWood. And the guy then claims that he has something, and also claims that he got so carried away that he forgot to show it, and, most importantly, he thinks that it's good that Elliot quickly moves away and asks what it is. The young man then inserts the ball into the machine, after which another voice recording plays. The Count then claimed it was only $4 million, and he would pay it all back next week, but the other guy asks when he can expect the last $5 million. The man then said he was sorry, but he really needed the money right now, and the guy also threw another ball. Afterwards, a recording played of the Count claiming he knew where he could make a profitable investment. However, the other man told Macwood to back off, and he then told the man to trust him just once. Now the alchemist claims that, judging by everything, he hasn't even returned the money to Tervin Silver, and the threats are likely becoming more severe. He then turns to Adele and asks if now isn't the perfect time to finish him off, but she insists it's obvious. The Count has completely lost the trust of those around him, but she still understands that she could take advantage of the situation, after which she tells Elliot that they will wait for now. The girl also understands that she is now a chef, but for the first time she is personally bringing food, and when meeting she will have to try to establish contact, and will probably have to take the initiative. After which the young lady states that the food is ready. Adele realizes that everyone knows the dragon's human form is a visitor from a distant kingdom. She then enters the room and claims she came to check if he's in any discomfort. The dragon replies that not yet, but if the food seems tasteless to him, then they will be inconvenienced, and the main character asserts that she is glad to hear this and is also sure that he will like it. After which the young lady shows him a sweet and sour salad with seaweed, as well as a refreshing grapefruit drink, and most importantly, it's a fiery chicken. The dragon is a little surprised, and the girl realizes it's perfect. The man then says that if the food is as delicious as the smell is enticing, there's nothing to worry about. Then he decides to start with the salad, and the main character realizes that next time she will have to make more because the dragon seemed to swallow the salad in a couple of seconds. And then the man tries the main dish, but still claims that it is very tasty, and also tells the girl that everything is great and that she should continue in the same spirit. The young lady then also asks if fire spirits can be aggressive, after which the guy is surprised, and the young lady claims that Mars constantly bites, and she does not think that this is in order to protect her. As far as she knows, he wasn't so aggressive before and took care of his younger brothers and sisters, and also always obeyed, and the girl says that maybe she's doing something wrong, and she spends a lot of time on him, so she's definitely had an impact. The dragon just sighs and says how stupid humans are. After which he tells her not to bother her head with nonsense and to bring the fox there. A little while later, the young lady brings the ladder, and the dragon claims the reason is quite simple. Adele asks what the matter is. The dragon asks what people call it, and it seems to be a lack of affection. The main character then, shocked, asks if it's really a lack of affection, to which the dragon replies that yes, and the fox is lonely because she doesn't show him enough attention. And because of this, he becomes jealous. The young lady then turns to Mars, then approaches him and extends her hands, after which she asks if he is sad because she doesn't care about him. The girl also understands that she had never had animals before, but she thought she was doing well, and she had been observing Mars. But she still thinks that it seems she is using too much of his fire. The girl also thinks about what her friends who have pets do, and also thinks about toys and food, after which she asks Mars if he knows what money is needed for. A little while later, the girl is already buying her little pet all sorts of expensive toys. Then one of the salespeople claims the store manager wants to say hello, and the young lady asks what's wrong with Togo, since her little one doesn't like to wait. The girl also understands that this is a great way to spend money, after which she turns to Mars and asks what he will say and how he likes it all. The girl also claims that she bought some so that he doesn't have to be afraid to use fire, but then someone turns to the young lady and tells her to wait. Then he asks if her name is Adele. The main character turns around and wonders if it's really a child, then asks what's wrong. The boy then asks if she really is Adele. He also claims that he loves cooking and wants to become a great chef like her. The young lady realizes that she knew that because of the imperial banquet, her name was often featured in the newspapers, and now even children recognize her. After which the girl asserts that he seems genuinely serious, and the young man becomes a little embarrassed. He then hands her a piece of coal and asks if he can get an autograph. The main character then signs his hand and realizes she feels like a star. It's amazing that autographs exist in this world too. Afterwards, the young man thanks her and declares that today is the best day of his life, to which she replies that she's glad to hear it. Then they say goodbye, and the girl claims that it's thanks to Mars that so much has happened today. Then the young lady sees several more aristocrats and wonders if the palace physicians are there. But she's never seen them gather like this, and the girl also doesn't understand what's going on. One of the doctors then asks where such a terrible cold came from, and maybe it's pneumonia, because it doesn't really look like a common cold. Another one claims that this is quite strange, but be that as it may, everything needs to be clarified, because there are simply no suitable medicines in the palace, and even the strongest swordsman cannot resist the disease. The main character then wonders if they're talking about the swordsman, and also wonders if Kylo has fallen ill. A short time later, the girl is already preparing ingredients for healthy and delicious dishes. She also understands that all ingredients must be fresh, and work surfaces must be perfectly clean. At this time, the blonde man claims that he is finished with the tomatoes and chicken. The main character asks him if he really did it so quickly, after which she thanks him. The girl also understands that she peeled the pumpkin and washed the sesame seeds, after which she soaks the rice, and the blonde asks how long it needs to be soaked, to which the girl replies that it should be soaked for about 30 minutes, and this reduces the cooking time. She also tells him to prepare the soup, and he agrees. Meanwhile, something gets in the way and the protagonist insists she should have asked Elliot to make it in a blender. She also understands that the taste improves if she waits long enough. You also need to fry the tomatoes and add a little water, then stir. Then stir the broth thoroughly to prevent burning. The young lady also claims that once it's lukewarm, you need to mash it thoroughly, and the sesame seeds will need to be mixed with the rice later. The guy then asks if there's too much there, but the young lady doesn't understand what he's talking about. The guy then claims that he understands the states for His Majesty, but isn't there too many dishes there? And he's sick too. Adele says His Majesty is a very picky eater and needs to cook more to be on top of it. The blonde then asks what all this is about, after which the young lady claims she's worried he's feeling unwell because of her, and she's so sorry she didn't think about it. The guy then asks what she's thinking about, and the girl replies that Kylo helped her become the imperial chef and adds in her mind that he's done a lot for her. Then the girl claims she cooked more, but she still feels like it's not enough. The blonde man then asks if that's the only reason, and the main character is a little surprised, after which the guy tells her to forget about it. He then also claims the rice has been soaking for half an hour. The young lady then takes out the rice and cooks it, and after a while she realizes there's just one last step left, and beautiful presentation is also important. Then the girl declares everything is ready and ties all the dishes onto her shoulders. The blonde then asks if she can carry it all herself and if she needs help, after which the girl replies that no, she's fine because he already helped her with the cooking, after which the young lady thanks Ferris and says that he saved her. The guy then becomes a little embarrassed and says, okay, and where else will she find such a skilled assistant? He also insists that he worked very hard, so she should be gentle and lightly hit the young lady on the shoulders. The girl then wonders why she should be afraid, and realizes she's already been shown the door once. Now the young lady understands that this time she will never give in, but when she approaches the door, His Highness. Then a guard suddenly blocks her path. The young lady then asks what happened, but the man says they can't go any further, and His Highness hasn't allowed Chef Adele to enter. The girl is then shocked and wonders why. After all, Kylo even tried to prevent her visit. And he starts to get annoying, so the girl thinks that he probably helped her because he was grateful for saving his father, but then the young lady understands that she needs to behave with restraint and also asks if the gentleman is afraid of getting infected, to which the guard replies that he is. His Highness is ill, so entry is prohibited, and any infection must be eliminated. A short time later, the young lady approaches Elliot and claims she has a request. Elliot then says he's listening to the young lady, but she asks him not to do anything stupid. The young man is a little surprised and insists that she act for help herself, after which the young lady replies that she did, but feels a little awkward. Elliot asks what it is, and the girl asks if he can make her a protective suit. And he also needs to make sure it covers all parts of his body. After which the guy simply asks incredulously if Adele is really thinking she's dangerous again. But she doesn't understand why this guy is looking for trouble in everything. She also says that she's never taken risks without reason before. The boy wonders if this is true and who went to the dragon, but the girl insists that the prince guaranteed her safety. However, the alchemist insists that if he had truly cared for her, he would never have sent her there. Adele insists there were reasons, but the alchemist cries out that nothing is more important than health and safety. The girl then realizes that this guy doesn't really like Prince Kylo and wonders if something really happened between them. After which she tells the guy to believe that it is not dangerous at all and she just needs to see the sick person. After which the guy asks who is sick, and the young lady understands that if she tells the alchemist about this, he may refuse to help, but she does not want to lie. The guy, meanwhile, is thinking that if Adele is assuring him, then he'll agree. He then claims he already has a couple of suits and thinks he can find her size. Adele asks if he really already has those suits. The guy replies that, of course, he's dealing with dangerous substances and will definitely find a suitable suit and ship it in protective packaging. The main character then smiles and says it's not that dangerous. But then she takes the boy by the hand and thanks him, and also claims to cook him lots of tasty treats. The young man then only becomes embarrassed and realizes he's being treated like a child. A short time later, the young lady approaches the guard, who asks if this is really an alchemist's attire. He also explains that his younger brother is an alchemist's apprentice, so he's seen this outfit a couple of times. The protagonist asks if she can enter dressed like that. The guard claims that she cannot disobey Mr. Note, but tells him to wait a minute, after which he points to the Emperor's chef's badge and asks if he sees it, and believe the Emperor was suffering from ailments and felt better after her cooking, and the girl points to the tray and claims that this secret dish will help His Highness recover. The guard then looks a little surprised, but nevertheless allows the young lady to pass. The protagonist then heads to His Highness's room and realizes it's quite quiet and dark. It was exactly the same on her first visit, and she was terribly confused. The girl also realizes there's no one there, not even any servants, and she has that same feeling. It's as if she's found herself in an abandoned estate, and the girl realizes it's like a haunted house. She then quickens her pace, wondering how she'll find the bedroom if no one's there. Then the young lady starts calling out for Prince Kylo, and then asks if anyone's there. The girl also thinks there's nothing to be done and will have to look into every door. Then the young lady opens one and realizes it's a luxurious hall. When she enters another room, she sees it's a study, and another room contains a spacious bathroom. Finally, the girl opens the door to the next room and sees a luxurious bedroom. When she looks at the bed, she sees that it's empty. The young lady wonders if this is a guest room, but it looks more like the imperial family's room. When the girl turns around, she sees the prince himself and, shocked, turns to him. But when she sees the boy is struggling, she runs up to him and asks what's wrong. He doesn't seem well, though. After that, the young lady lifts the boy onto the sofa and insists that he shouldn't lie on the floor. After which the girl finally settles him on the sofa and realizes that she barely dragged him there, but the guy at that very moment grabs her by the hand and turns her over so that the girl is underneath him. The main character then asks what's going on and turns to the gentleman, who, when he realizes it's Adele, only turns to her in surprise. Meanwhile, Adele wonders how this even happened. After which, she, completely embarrassed, says it was her and cries out, asking him to come to his senses. The young man is silent for a moment and moves away from the main character, apologizing for coming without asking, claiming she brought him food. The boy is delirious at this point, wondering what Adele is doing there and whether he's dreaming. He also asks what kind of outfit this is, and the young lady replies that it's an alchemist's costume and that she heard he's very afraid of getting infected. This costume, however, protects against any terrible disease. Kylo then claims he just caught a cold, but the girl insists it's impossible to ignore and wonders if the illness has really progressed that much. The young man then insists he's just a little wet and then looks at the scattered papers. He also claims he was planning to watch them. Adele excitedly tells the gentleman he better not make any sudden movements, or he'll fall again, but at that very moment the guy, as the girl said, collapses to the floor, and the main character is surprised. A short time later, the girl is already applying a wet cloth to His Highness's head and asking if he's okay. The boy then simply wonders if it's Adele, and then, shocked, he says that it wasn't a dream. The prince also gets out of bed and says he's feeling unwell because of a fever. But the young lady says he'd better not move anymore, since she barely got him into bed. The girl also asks if he is taking medication, to which the guy replies that he is not. He also has not eaten for several days, and the main character claims that she knew it. But the guy does not take medication and does not even eat, so of course he will not get better. The young man then tells the girl to calm down, but she only tells him to listen, because she only trusts him. The prince is sick, but he's not eating at all and has even lost consciousness, which completely frightens her. The guy is a little surprised, then claims he's sorry, and the main character asks if that's really true. And if he's truly sorry, then he should eat, since she cooked a lot of food. The guy then looks at all the dishes. Afterwards, they realize he's full just looking at them. The heroine then tells the prince to try it, as she didn't bring much, and if he likes it, she'll bring more, to which he agrees. After which, he takes one of the soups and wonders if it's from a vending machine, and the main character realizes that fresh tomatoes are thoroughly cooked with sugar, and the result is a delicious, soft soup. The young lady also looks at the guy and wonders how he likes it, but he simply replies, stone-faced, that it's delicious. Afterwards, the girl gives him another bowl of soup and realizes it's pumpkin. This soft sweetness is achieved by mixing pumpkin with cream. The guy says it's delicious, after which the main character hands him another soup and tells him to try it too. The girl realizes that there is a little chicken broth and the softest meat, after which the guy claims that it is quite good, and the young lady thinks how picky he is. Then she hands him another black soup, and the prince then thinks that, okay, it doesn't matter to him anyway. But when he tries this soup, he is shocked, and realizes that it has a mild taste, and there's a subtle combination of sweetness and salt, a perfect harmony that makes the guy think he's just about done. The main character is a little surprised, and then watches as the guy empties the entire plate. She shows him this empty plate in shock, with a smile on her face. The young man claims that this is the best, and that there was no need to show the plate at all. Adele then asks him if it was tasty, and also understands that even if these are just words, it is still nice, and how can a guy be so calm, but she is still glad that he ate everything. The guy then claims he's finally had a good meal, and the young lady says she'll bring him food every day, and maybe he'd like to try something else, since she'll cook anything. To which the guy, with a smile, replies no, and he has enough. The prince also thanks Adele, and the girl smiles afterward, saying she hopes he gets better soon and to remember to take his medication. The young lady realizes her visit ended on a good note and the job is done. That's exactly what she thought. But a short time later, the alchemist closes it and tells Adele to be careful, after which a test tube shatters behind them. The young lady then asks in shock what happened. A little while later, she's already gluing the priest to the guy's face and apologizing, claiming she was lost in thought and accidentally touched the test tube. He replies that no, and she definitely didn't touch anything. The young lady is then surprised and asks what happened. The guy replies that the test tubes are so fragile that they're sensitive even to air and body temperature, and he was even somewhat prepared for this. The young lady then wonders if this whole place is a ticking time bomb. And this is all because they're not wearing protective clothing. The young woman then claims she's scared and wonders if there's a safer place. Well, the guy replies that there is no need for this, and let the lady just be next to him, and he will protect her at any cost, and after all, he has protected her before. The young man then looks at her resolutely, but the main character simply says that he's at it again, after which the young man realizes that he's being treated like a child again. At this point, a cracking sound is heard, and the young man claims he's having a reaction. After all, he had set up an automatic notification for when Macwood left the house. Afterward, they heard a man asking who was there and if it was Macwood, but he heard that the guy simply turned into a wet rat. The guy then says that yes, they already know everything. The alchemist then asks what wet rat means, and maybe it's some kind of password. The energetic lady insists that it could be quite literal.